um, kidnap saga, Gomosho. The rescue happened over the weekend. What's your take on this?
My take on it is I stand with the people of Oyo State as represented and publicly stated by their governor that there is a need for us to interrogate the release, or as some people call it, rescue of the school children and their teachers in Oyo State. I was not happy when that happened, but I saw the pattern as similar to that of the Chibok girls' kidnappings. And I will also say that in what the officials who did the release of the children finally said was exactly what I said severally on television. That's been a standard mode for our police if they really want to get down to it. Why do I say this? When kidnappers start calling you with phone, they will call you with a SIM that they think is just fresh. But that SIM is inserted into a phone that has an IMEI number. So that IMEI number, no matter the SIM you put inside that phone, you use their SIM to call, the IMEI number of that SIM in that phone will always register. And the best way to always do this is once you have those calls, you start to interrogate what other numbers on any network that SIM may, or that phone may have called. And once those people are brought in for questioning, it's always easy every time for police to do what? To find the people. But because the Buhari administration and its involvement in the slow motion war, which we later saw as a jihad, was the reason why Buhari didn't allow anybody in Nigeria to use drones to interrogate and locate where the people are. I, Kacho Nununju, had been on this issue for the past 12 years. None had been on national television playing this Fulani monologue like I have done. I have had scars. I have had governments trying to stop me. I have severally gone to television. Even when I did my study, I went to Burkina Faso, Mauritania, I went to Mali. I came back to Nigeria, and the things I saw on the Kwatrakwache Kankara Huntua route, I revealed and shared with Nigerians on channel television. The country now understood, because I say the people doing this violence across Nigeria, they don't speak Hausa, they don't speak English, they speak Bambara and French. Because of government's inability to establish consequences for those who do this action, it has sustained. But I want the country to understand, it was a collective uproar from the Yoruba nation that forced the administration into doing what they should do. How come we do not have this kind of institutional outrage when children are also kidnapped in northern Nigeria? Probably because of the division there and the fact that a lot of the leaders in the north are also part and parcel of the sponsorship platforms and the patrons of this terrorists. I have said this severally, and they were playing with it, probably because politicians think that it's a good thing to use violence to keep themselves in power. The other day, I saw the father of the foundational installation blocks of the Boko Haram, who is Alemodu Sharif, coming to talk on national television, that we could still tolerate such persons. I repeat, Alemodu Sharif formed the Ekomok Boys in Borno. Alemodu Sharif got contract from General Sani Abacha. Abacha died before that contract could be executed, and Alemodu Sharif diverted some of those strengths to form in the Ekomok Boys in Borno. It was the Ekomok Boys that were weaponized by other people in Borno against Alemodu Sharif. That was what gave birth to Boko Haram. So when I see such persons come on TV and try to blame other people, to try to wipe up very, very dirty and unacceptable sentiments, I tell myself this is how low this society is. If the country cannot bring consequences to such persons, that's why we are in trouble.
Okay, Dr. Kach, you've said a lot in your opening remarks, so let's try and unpack some of the things you said. Number one, Governor Seyi Makinde came out after the rescue to openly allege, that the a sort of conspiracy in the kidnap of the pupils and their teachers, And don't forget that we're talking about casualties also in this saga, because two teachers, one teacher was beheaded, another died, and then we lost servicemen also during the rescue. So Governor Seyi alleges that the kidnap coincided with his declaration for the presidency. So number one, can you address this issue of conspiracy?
Yes, because when the kidnap occurred, my friend, a former governor, Ayo Fayose, came to insinuate publicly that Seyi Makinde may have instrumented the kidnappings to give bad name to the administration. And now the administration has done what we think is not very clear. So since you have people who are friendly to government, like Fayose and other people accusing Makinde, and Makinde is also now saying that he suspects a staged kidnapping in reaction to his announcement that he would do presidential election. It only makes sense that we now find an independent body away from these two groups accusing themselves. Let there be an independent body to now interrogate this issue. If the governor is alleging a staging, and someone like Fayose is saying it was Makinde who organized it, the right thing to do is, if friends of the government insist it is Makinde, and Makinde now says he thinks it is the government people, the right thing to do is to find an independent body to do an interrogation of this particular issue. Why do I say this? We have had this problem before in Borno State, where the Chibok girls were taken, and of course, a lot of us suspect that the Chibok girls was instrumented by politicians who sought to make President Goodluck Jonathan look bad. Now that we have this problem in Oyo, Makinde is not just any Nigerian. He is the governor for your state. He was elected by the people. He speaks on behalf of the people. The people of Oyo are demanding for an independent interrogation of the events surrounding the kidnap. And the only thing to do is simply, since the governor is on a different side from friends of the government, let us have a third party to do an interrogation. I stand with Governor Seyi Makinde on it. Why? The state capture that we have today have lots of consequences. And what I believe is that this sudden loss of confidence in the government and its word regarding security and this kind of insecurity issues, let us have a third party. I stand on that. Interrogate this particular issue in Oyo State. I repeat, I stand with the people of Oyo as expressed their voices, as said by their governor. That's where I am.
But let me ask you, Dr. Kach, as someone who deals in research, policy formulation, execution, implementation, why are we still battling this 17 odd years after this monster that has led to so much death, so much pain? And this is not just Christian genocide narrative. I'm talking about Muslims who have borne probably the bigger brunt of this.
The Hausas have borne the bigger brunt in their states. Hear me.
Hausas are Muslims.
Don't listen. Hausas are to the Fulani jihadists dispensable. And everywhere you see in Hausa land, you have this problem. Places like I went to Basari, I went to Dosima, I went to that Musa.
Dr. Kach, why are we still dealing with this monster?
Because of democracy. In the days of the British, don't forget the Fulani came here. They were not the first to come. The first to come here were the Portuguese. Then later on, the British came after the 1860 Berlin Conference. The British were here, but the Fulanis were also here as slave catchers. So when the British now sought to organize themselves as colonial masters, they also, after the killing of Sultan Atahiru in Gombe by Captain Moloney was later killed in Kefi by Mekasua. The British pursued Mekasoa to Kanu, where they caught him and hung him at the stake. The British later on employed the Fulani as agents to look after the Hausa and report back to the British in what we regarded in history as indirect rule. So when our fathers from the south were fighting for independence, the Fulanis were so strong over the Hausa Bokwe area, Hausas didn't even join the struggle for independence. So when the British left us, the Fulanis stayed back. So in principle, it was just the south that got independent. In the north, as I speak to you till this day, no Hausa man is emir anywhere in Hausa land. So as the democracy came, as the days grew, we started feeling freedom. And most people started looking at a way to use these violent militias to gain land. Now, as I said, Boko Haram started primarily as a consequence of some Borno people being angry. You remember when some of their people would come here calling themselves Borno elders, telling good luck, don't do this, don't do that. Yaradua didn't listen to that. I called my friend Chris Dega. Christopher Dega was a CP then, and met Chris Dega as CP in Delta State. Later on, he went to Borno. So when that issue happened, I said, Chris, what's going on? He said that they had presidential directive. Remember that time, I think Yaradua was going for either a UN conference or whatever. He gave that instruction. He understood what was going on. And of course, he's not the only leader in the north that have seen it. Other leaders have seen Maitasine, seen all the kind of things. It crushed them. But later on, after the boys were now weaponized against the state, you now saw the Borno elders moving in, telling good luck, don't touch them, don't touch them. It went on very much. But because of those politicians were supporting those boys, and most of those politicians are politicians that have real power, the story is Alimodu formed the original Ekumok boys. I do one thing you Nigerians know about me. Go back. There's nothing I've ever said that has not turned out to be the truth. I sustained my Fulani monologue because of this crisis for over 10 years. Today, the Americans agree with me verbatim. Everything I say is true. Being pursued by elements of the Mieti Allah Katohore, led by Bello Abdullah Bodejo. Bello is a friend of mine. I was the only person at the Sheraton on the day it was launched that was not Fulani, sitting on the high table. I still have the pictures. Then you also have the Mieti Allah Makban Cattle Breeders Association, led by the Sultan. Those were also blamed by the Americans. And of course, the other people who were doing what they are doing. So when you talk openly, they say you're trying to profile them. But when you are at war, you speak the truth. And my own problem is, when Tinubu came in, how come he's not been able to calibrate a reaction to do this? No. Luckily, we Americans came in, and that was why you was hearing over 200 of those militias were killed, and their weapons have been now taken over by the Americans to go and understudy, because every weapon has a mark, and you'll be able to trace who signed the NUC certificate that brought that weapon wherever it is. And this is where we are. But you're asking why has it persisted? Because politicians have seen advantage in it. They now use the violence to secure territory, which is what is going on. Look at Maitawele blaming the Hausa vigilante called Yambanga, that it is because of high-handedness of the Yambanga that the Fulani militias are now reacting to try. But that's not true. When you bring people and put them in the bush and they have gun, a man with a gun gets a lot to go through his head. So I blame the Nigerian state, because if the state has had the political will to end this thing, we will have ended it since.
Okay, Dr. Kash, let me appeal that we need to move. We have probably like just 30 minutes left, so we need to, but we still have quite a number to cover. Critics have said that the APC Tinubu-led administration is totally disconnected from the everyday reality of Nigerians in terms of economy and insecurity. How do you respond to this?
I will say that Tinubu, through some of his pronouncements, he means well. That's what I want to think, because I like the rhetorics I hear. But it is an implementation. Don't forget, the most important factor and tool of leadership is trust. If they don't trust you because you don't give accounts, they will continue to say what. So if the economy gets well only when people in government give statements, but when you look on the streets, the people still suffer. And then they'll tell you they're doing well in insecurity, and yet the people in the Benue Valley cannot go tonight and sleep. People in Plateau cannot sleep. People in Briningwari cannot sleep. People in Southern Kaduna cannot sleep. Hausas in Katsina, Zamfara, and Sokoto cannot sleep. Then something is wrong. Kwara State is just a new thing because of the pressure on the Benue Valley. That's why they now did the diversion. Because you have militias with guns, so if you stop them from going to Route A, they will, with those guns, enter Route B. So when they enter Kwara, and then from Kwara, they now entered Oyo, they've been in Oyo since. Don't forget, they've always been in Shaki. And then from the difference this time is that it was not just the problem in Shaki. It was the advance towards Ogbomoso, and then the kidnappings and so on. If we had always had institutional outrage over these issues, the government may have found the will. But of course, you had a collective tribal outrage expressed by the Yorubas, and that was why you saw the government did what they did. But then, despite what they did, the governor of Oyo, on behalf of Oyo people, is demanding for an independent interrogation and investigation of the circumstances surrounding these kidnaps and their subsequent release.
What's your own assessment? You should also give a score of President Tinubu's performance in 3 years, because it's 3 years and about 2 months now. What score? In 1 minute, what's your score? How do you rate the president, the administration?
26 to 28%.
Not even 30%.
You wouldn't do, because Tinubu has failed in lots of ways. He has sustained the embrace of nepotism as policy of state, which is wrong. But I also see he's united quite a lot of us. Some people who were not there, like the Ezon, are now beginning to also cry. The Ezon were promised to be part of the new Nigeria in '66 if they joined the civil war on the federal side. What have they gotten? Even when they were promised Port Harcourt, Port Harcourt was removed from them by Abacha. And everything you have today in Rivers State were all people who were under the Igbo-Aro Confederacy that lasted from 1640 to 1900. The only people in today's River State that were not part of the Aro Confederacy are the Ogoni. Ogonis came from Bakongo. Bakongo today is shared into 3 countries: Congo, Kinshasa, Congo, Brazzaville, and Angola. So they came here, but after the Emancipation Proclamation, they were kept where they are. And that's what it is. The rest of them, everybody, are Igbo. So the idea of telling me, who was born in Diobu, who grew up around Port Harcourt, trekking from Diobu to Nembe Waterside, from Nembe Waterside to Rumumasi, where my sister got married, that I should deny my heritage. That's nonsense. But of course, there are Igbos willing to deny their heritage. You can see it. And that's why you say, when those things happen, what is it? Is the Nigerian state putting pressure on them? Port Harcourt was renamed in 1913. The real name of that place is Iguacha. Iguacha, it means in Igbo, white hill. It was renamed in 1913 to honor Lord Vernon Harcourt, who at that time was Secretary of the Colonies in the British government. Because Port Harcourt was being used as a staging post to export the coal that Daddy Onyema was bringing from the mines in Enugu. And that's what it is. So whether you want to deny who you are or not, I see myself as a Rivers man. Me and Wike, we are Aro Ikwere. It was the Aro that were there, the Aro Confederacy. That's what it is. So if you now want me to deny my heritage because you want me to gain acceptance, I would not agree.
Okay, so President Tinubu has done, you score him 26%.
I will score Tinubu 25, 26%, yes.
Okay.
But that does not say that he may not. The reasons why Tinubu didn't do well in my ranking is when he came in, the single biggest problem Nigerians had was insecurity. He came in, and when he was asked about the Benue thing, he said it's intercommunal clash. How? Benue is 98% Christians, and people come there to say Allah Akbar and start killing people. Ask me what Benue's offense is. They have water And they have a special species of the elephant grass which cattle love. And that's why the Fulani set upon taking Benue by force. Same thing with areas of Mambila, the Kaka and the Pansa, and the Mambilan plains in Gembu. Same problem. Same thing all over Southern Kaduna. Same thing with Jos. Jos humidity is so beautiful, the British stayed there. I grew as a child in Jos. When I grew in Jos, there was no Fulani in Jos. Mostly along Jubilee, it was just the British. After Gowon did that indigenization decree, the British now left Jos and left Kaduna. That's why the thing became empty. And suddenly, we're not having people being killed. So for me, insecurity in any part of Nigeria is a threat to security all over the country. And I blamed President Tinubu for not having the courage to calibrate a response to these killings, because the first duty of government is the protection of lives and property.
Okay, let's interrogate President Tinubu's democratic credentials. He was touted as a Democrat, that he was part of those who fought against military dictatorship under Abacha, went into exile, joined the Nadeko coalition forces that resisted Abacha's the tyrannical activities and all of those. And then he came back, became governor, But here we are, 3 years into his administration. As we speak here, El-Rufai is in prison, not convicted yet, but going through judicial process. He's been granted bail, but once a court gives him bail, very stringent conditions, is coming out, another, agency hauls him in, and then. So my question, Dr. Kach, how do you assess President Tinubu's democratic credentials? Is he indeed a Democrat? Do you think he's a Democrat?
Tinubu can be called a Democrat by rhetorics, but by action, is not democratic. If under Tinubu, ministers under him are going to court every day to try to kill PDP, kill ADC, kill NDC, there's no democracy in that. I have known Tinubu as a Lagosian. His strategy is, if he sees an opposition, if he sees an opponent, he'll try to delete that opponent or even delete the platform. That's been his strategy. So that he brought it nationally, I'm not surprised. But I also don't blame him totally. I blame Nigerians. Our country is as bad as it is because of our docility. If we were not docile, if we were not divided, it wouldn't be. Can you imagine the people suffering today? The indigenous people. Today, look at all these generals, these big boys of the militia. Bello Turuji is not Nigerian. He's from Niger. Bello Bodejo is from Niger. So when you start hiring all these foreigners to start fighting to take over Nigeria, I don't really think it's... So I thought Tinubu should have, as he hits the ground, do that. There is enough number for him to impress and actually run on that record of having saved the people from dying. Why has the killing stopped in Benue Valley? Because the Americans came here. Why? The Benue church went to Rome. Rome directed them to Washington. They got to Washington, linked up with other Nigerians, made their case, and they said yes. The reasons why Tinubu and Buhari didn't care about people shouting Allah Akbar and killing Christians is because the people being killed as Christians. And that was how the Americans came here. But if you ask me, I know the Americans have always wanted to come to Nigeria since the days of Obasanjo. They didn't come here invited by a government. No, don't forget, they forced themselves here. Why? Nigeria is not Iran. Iran has a standing army. Nigeria doesn't have one. The army in Nigeria was damaged, compromised, and Afghanistan by the Buhari regime. And that's why you saw it's like those Fulani militias were invisible. They're not invisible. So when Christopher Musa came and people like me and others were campaigning for a reversal of that doctrine of do not engage, which was a doctrine Buhari's administration used to tie the hands of members of our security services. As I'm speaking to you, there are still arguments in the army whether they should respect General Christopher Musa's words that people abandon that doctrine of do not engage. Shoot if anybody should cock gun near you. Fire if anybody fires. That's what it should be. Not wait until you get directive from politicians before you now do that. That's what damages. And who does this? That's why you saw when they have credible, actionable intelligence that there will be a kidnap. And then people will tell people to stand down weapon. Even where soldiers are put there, like you saw in the last area, the soldiers were removed. So there are still people in the security services who are still loyal to the Buhari doctrine. And that's our problem. So that's why I support Tinubu's most, I would say, revolutionary achievement since he became president. And that was the move towards state police. Some people fear that state police may be abused by governors, but this is a time of war. And whether you like it or not, the Fulani militias are very audacious. So if you take them to joke, you're just playing at, look at, you stop them from Benue, then now corner to Kwara and start moving into Oyo. Let the people have the guns. The state police will be the first place where you will now arm indigenous Nigerians to look after themselves. Nobody can be compromised if his village is under attack.
Do you think President Tinubu's administration is being fair to Malam Nasir El-Rufai because of the role you and I know El-Rufai played in enabling President Tinubu's victory in 2023, meaning rallying the North, northern votes for him, getting his fellow northern governors, elites, ulamas, the clerics, and all of those to deliver block votes. Some accounts between 50-60% of the entire 8 million votes President Tinubu got came from the North. So the wives of Malam Nasir came out the other day appealing to the conscience of President Tinubu that is this how you repay us for what our husband and we ourselves did. Do you believe Malam Nasir deserves what he is going through currently?
I was asked the same question last month in a fora in the United States. I told them that this issue between Tinubu and El-Rufai is what Nigerian police refers to as family case.
They are not two family members. Though.
Family case. Hear me now. El-Rufai was in the same family.
Political family.
Political family of those who plotted to bring Tinubu to power. But the problem was, Tinubu said, at the time when the exit polls were coming, and we saw that Peter Obi won the election in all the military installations across Nigeria, the results were stopped. And we said, why are you stopping this? Because I, as head of media, I served as special advisor to Peter Obi on public affairs. Keyamo served as special advisor to Tinubu on public affairs. Dino Malaya served as special advisor to Atiku Abubakar for public affairs. And I knew what was going around on all those issues. And I knew when we asked questions of why have you stopped the collection of the results? They told us there was a glitch. El-Rufai, Tinubu, and others were in the same family, doing what they were doing. So for me, that was why you saw, even after the elections and Tinubu was sworn in as president, when they came talking to us that we should join them to do a national protest against Tinubu, I told my people, don't. I reach out to market leaders and leaders all over the places, the cells. I say, don't join. This is not our problem. This is their local family matter. That's why I say this is what police called family case. We refused to join them. And that initial protest against President Tinubu failed. But when it now came to issues of, we talk about let us form coalition, I told Peter, I said, look, these people asking for coalition are the same people who said no when we started our quest for equity in the PDP. Because that was how we formed the movement. We started in the PDP. I was saying no to them, me and Doino Kukwe, but we didn't have a candidate. When I first met Peter Obi, Peter refused to run against Atiku. What me? I had to go to Igbo leaders, Chief SNO Keke, Okwadike that died, Chief Ezife. That was when the pressure came on Peter. Until we organized in, we say, a gathering of several Igbos from Abuja. They came, and Peter came that day. Peter said he will run. And that was how we started. So when I started doing what we were doing, we had our association build up organically. And that was when everybody started coming in. Tanko came from National Action Party. Kenneth Okonkwo came from APC, Enugu APC. We in the PDP were the foundational members of the movement. That's why when people come and try to damage it, I said, look, we were fighting for equity. And the equity is for the inclusion of all of Nigeria's diversity in the governance of its presidential system. That's what we're doing. But some people didn't understand. They thought it was an issue for money. So for me, what happens between President Tinubu and El-Rufai is something I lovely will want to stay out so that I can hear. No, because you see, when you now see, my mother tells me that whenever armed robbers come and steal from you and they start fighting in public about the sharing of the loot, don't put your hand so that you can understand properly what really happened when they came to your house. But on the issue of law, every worker deserves his wage and every citizen deserves their rights. El-Rufai's rights should be respected in line with the law. What they did to us, I don't think they should do it to them. Remember during that time, Osinbajo got up one time and said that he will take me to court. He gave me 7 days that if I do not take back what I said in public, that he will take me to court. I did not move. I told those who came to me, I said, if Yemi tries, I see him in any court, I will do what? I will open chapter 2 of my files on him. Yemi never went to court because I knew the game. From the talks I've had with elder statesmen, I was told that Yemi will never go to court because the immunity is not on him. The immunity is on the office of the vice president. So if he wanted to go to court against me, Kachi Ononuju, he will need to resign. And when some leaders asked me, Kachi, do you really think Yemi will resign because of you? I said, no. They said to me, don't worry. That's why I wasn't moved that time. So I have been through these issues. When you deal with a man, there are consequences when you plot with a man and you don't know who he is. So this is what it is. For El-Rufai and Tinubu's issue, as I said earlier, is a family case. But because El-Rufai is a Nigerian, I will fight that his right be respected, that he be given his right under our constitution. He should be given bail so that he can fight his case if there are cases against him, just the way they are taking Malami's own. Malami, remember, was Attorney General. Under the democracy, after the president, you have Attorney General. But where is Malami today? So nothing lasts forever, my dear brother. It is good that all of us come together to make Nigeria better than people conniving to establish this state capture, which I think what you see Tinubu doing are consequences of state capture. And Mr. El-Rufai, yes, I blame him in the past for being part of the clique that plotted to capture the state, but the hand unto whom they have now trust the state so captured is now dealing them a very, very dirty hand.
What's your response? This raging controversy surrounding the president's chief of staff concerning a fictitious, in inverted comma, agency, Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council. The man in question, said he gave a bribe of 400 million naira to get appointed as DG of that fictitious agency, remaining a balance of 200 million. It was denounced by the presidency by Mr. Gbajabiamila. He got allocated offices at the Federal Secretariat, got line budgetary allocation in the national budget, got all sorts. I mean, you are familiar with the story. What's your general response to this? The way the president handled it and all of that?
Well, I think the presidency is not handling it well. The same with the Omoye case.
Which case is that?
The death of Mary Habila.
I think that matter, the police is investigating.
Well, the police should do an independent investigation, just as the Gbajabiamila case should also be investigated independently, not Gbajabiamila to sit over the interrogation. You understand what I'm saying? So, because we're not suffering from the consequences of state capture, I think the state is not handling this issue well. The man has said that he gave 400 million. Am I right? And it is his inability to bring the balance 200 million that caused the rift between him and Gbajabiamila. What I think the president should have done is to appoint an independent body, not with Gbajabiamila sitting over the judgment, an independent body to interrogate it. But if you see, as I said about the Omoye issue, you cannot be a judge in your own case. The state should allow, because I know historically, one thing the police does not play with is issues of murder and issues of robbery. And now we've had a young girl who moved from Kaduna to Ebonyi State to do, I don't know what they call it, but when I was asking people, I said, what did they say she did? He said, Daddy, which language do you want me to say? He said, is it the street? Is it the poor people? Or is it the big people name? I said, tell me the street. He said, that thing they did on the street, na shawo. What thing they do on the poor people, na hook up. But the big man do na physiotherapy. And I started asking, so then what happened? He said, sometimes when you do this physiotherapy, you must also give the client happy ending. If it doesn't come with happy ending, it can end up in the way it is. So that's why I think there should be an independent interrogation of these particular issues. But that of Omoye and that of Gbajabiamila. The president is wrong to keep mute, to stay hands, and to look the other way while Rome burns. I think that's wrong. I believe there should be an independent interrogation, though I see Mr. Adeyemi himself has done something I think is smart. He's been able to hire U.S. lobbying people so as to raise voice in the United States within caucuses where these issues can actually be let out. It is dangerous where we're going to. The Gbajabiamila thing, the president doesn't want an independent interrogation. The same thing with the Habila thing. They don't want an independent interrogation by the police. They want to bury the girl with, how can you have murder? It's not a private issue. Once it's murder, it is between you and the state. So it has nothing to do with whoever says they are compromised relatives. No, that's not true. Once it is murder under our law, it's an issue of state. So why would the state not have an autopsy of the girl? Once it's something like robbery, as we've seen in the robbery of our money, you can see the systemic filing of that committee into the budget, provision of SECOF grants, and then the man being given offices. That itself is also robbery. Robbery of our Commonwealth. Now, one of them has gone wrong. Do me and you know how many of such agencies exist where the proper money was paid and there's no noise? That's why the president needs to allow for independent interrogation of these issues.
Okay. Let's switch gears from that. Do you think the opposition parties and their candidates, are they doing enough to put these governments on its toes?
No. No. A house divided cannot fall. I speak to you from a position of...
A house divided cannot stand.
No. Why? The problem we had in 2022-23 was the division. Once it got to, because the North had finished doing 8 years with Buhari, so to allow the presidential pendulum to now shift to the South, that was why I fell out with Atiku. Atiku refused. Same Atiku who formed MPDP and used that to build a coalition with ACN, with CPC, with ABGA, and AMPP led by Omoye. And then you brought about your wish, and Northerner became president, and you did it for 8 years for the sake of nation building. Allow the presidential pendulum to also swing to the South. And that was when Atiku refused, I went against him. I was a lone voice. Then I got Doyin Okugbe, and we started shouting, and that was how we formed the Obi movement. We went to Obi. First time I met Obi, Obi refused. Obi refused to run against Atiku. It was when now we made all the pushing, Obi finally agreed. And I respected him because he had strong regard and respect for Atiku. He said, no, Kachi, I will not go up again. He was calling him my boss. I said, who's your boss? He was calling him my principal. He said, no, Kachi, I will not go against my principal. And I was laughing. And I looked at this man. But I wanted equitable, inclusion of my own section of Nigeria in the presidency of Nigeria. And that was why, as Tinubu and co were fighting on their own side in APC for the thing to come to the South, we were also fighting in PDP for the thing to come to the South. Atiku should have respected that. Atiku has been well blessed since he became a Nigerian in 1961. Atiku was born in German Cameroon. But when Germany lost the Second World War, Cameroon was taken off them and shared amongst the French and the English. And that was when British own side of Cameroon did their plebiscite. The British now brought them in. That's how the Adamawa province became part of Nigeria. and the rest is history. And since then he came, within 9 years, he got into the customs. He rose to become vice president. That's inclusion. Allow the Southerners inclusion, Atiku refused. And that's why you saw the opposition split. And that's why I tell you, when you're divided, it becomes a problem. But we also were told this issue, that we are divided. But even some people say, Kachi, you crazy. You're leading Peter into a blind area. No. Yes, I was angry, but I also knew I understand the street. I understood the psychology. And of course, we knew what to propagate. We sustained, and the rest is history. So for me, because things are still bad, if Tinubu allows free and fair election, he's gone. And tell you one thing, we're going to do this time what we didn't do before. We're not going to go to court. We will not go to court.
What are you going to do?
We will win at the booths. We will use the Kanu doctrine. We will vote. We will wait for our votes to be counted. It is when they refuse to count our votes, maybe they will count human beings. And we know if that problem comes, the Americans who are already here occupying our country will say, why are you providing human bodies for counting? But we believe, since the judiciary has now been pocketed, when a man tells you to go to court, you remember what Goodluck said? It means that his brother is a judge. So when they now force us to go to court, they already have people who are compromised in court. And we said, no, there is no need going to court. We're going to learn the Kanu doctrine.
Are you calling for a resort to self-help?
My brother, I am telling you that if the United States and the people of France did not take their own strength into their hands, we wouldn't have the societies we have today. So if we really want to help our country, I told you before, our main fundamental problem in Nigeria is the docility of citizens. And of course, the absence of courage. Of all virtues you have as a human being, the most important virtue is courage. I come every time on television and I sustain the telling of the violence being perpetrated by militias. Not that I am the only one who knows. Some know it, but they lack the courage to share what they know. So I am telling you now that the next election will be decided at the booth, not in the courts.
Don't you think, Dr. Kach, that your passion, your conviction, and this courage should be channeled to ensuring the leading presidential candidates, Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, Donald Duke, Adebayo Adewale, even Showore, these guys find a way to come together, bury their individual egos, and rally around one amongst themselves, present a formidable opposition. The word is formidable opposition, because if they go into this contest the way it is presently, it's a repeat of 2023.
I don't know what tomorrow will be, but what I know is I know the past. I know 2023. In 2023, we had no party. We had no governor. We had no single councillor. But you saw how it ended. Peter got 6+ million votes. So tell me what the other man who was talking silly about Peter Limodo Sheriff, has he ever gotten up to 3 million votes before in the North, 2.8 million? No. So if a man could, without anything, without people understanding, don't forget we started this 8 months to election. 8 months for election. Once we started that thing, we brought it out, people started joining us, and that was how the thing grew organically. So what I'm telling you is, we who did it then know what to do again.
Let me ask you, do you believe INEC, this present INEC, as it is presently set up under Professor Josh Amokwita, can deliver free, fair, credible election?
They've already done something which was tribally calculated to exclude the Igbos from voting. Why do I say so? The Igbos are known in Africa to be the only people that have an annual migration issue. Their annual migration period is between December and January. Do you know the very period when the Igbos are to be at home and be returning back to their station is when INEC has fixed this election?
No, Igbos should have come back.
By what date?
First week or so.
I'm asking you, by what date did INEC fix this?
The election, I think 16th, if I'm not mistaken.
16th of what?
January.
Good. The Igbos were targeted. This is my view.
No, I don't think. No, I don't think so.
Well, I am telling you this as an Igbo man. If I go home It is after everybody has left, second, third, and fourth. That's when I will now stay to do the important things I couldn't do during the festivities. When I finish them, by the end of January, I start coming back to my station because there's no need to rush. Of course, I couldn't do certain things like burials. You know, the Igbos will wait after Christmas, then they start the burials as they enter January. This is the largest human migration annually in Africa. And for that particular period to be now targeted, you means the Igbos who are committed to migration, when they migrate, you now put election. What are you going to tell me about that? So for Amopitan to be part of that, I'm not comfortable with him.
The context within which INEC under Josh Amopitan shifted the polls forward.
What was his reason?
No, just hold on. Forward to January was that the Muslims, the Muslim Nigerian citizens said, oh, the elections earlier scheduled for February will clash against the holy month of Ramadan.
Then
so you don't
forward to March.
So you don't agree with INEC?
If the Muslim story is real, move it to March. Why move it to trap the Igbos? I'm happy you've said that. If the Muslims say the Igbos, don't forget, represent the largest individual block of Christians in West Africa. So why are you going to now, when they are at home, preparing to do their festivities, you're putting an election? Don't you understand that?
And I think in any case, there's enough time between elections and swearing inauguration in May 29.
What I'm trying to tell you is this thing was targeted to undermine the Igbo vote, nothing else. These are my positions. Let they come and tell us. If the Muslims say what they said, have they asked about the Igbo? Tell me now. So instead of you having an MC Olomo and co to do voter suppression, the Igbos wouldn't have been back during that time. You saw Lagos, when the Igbos travel, it becomes empty. So you now want to do election when the Lagos is still empty? Tell me. So whatever this is my view, and I've had this view since last year. I was thinking about this. I said, let these people not try this, because it was being discussed around, and then it was implemented. The fear became reality. I am telling you now, you've asked this question. This is my own fear about this particular issue, and I think it's wrong. If they want an election where everybody can have a sense of belonging and inclusion in, shift it to March.
Are you afraid that President Tinubu and the party, the APC, the government, are you worried about what is going on, the instrumentalization of the judicial system to make sure parties are embroiled in never-ending circles of, court cases, court cases, deregistration, not deregistration, leadership tussle, this one, that one, just going on to as we speak, catch. We don't even know whether Atiku is on the ticket or not on the ballot, because INEC has uploaded, but there was an appeal court judgment recently that said, don't recognize any congresses, conducted under the David Mark. Another court in Lokoja said, I recognize NDC in December. June, he said, no, don't recognize them again.
Who went to get the judgment in Lokoja? Was that a political party?
It was a movement, an association.
Listen, that's just to tell. That's why I tell you, in practical terms, Asiwaju has not behaved like a Democrat. So it's one thing to have rhetorics that give you something that looks good, but look at in practice. Why is it under him that these things are happening?
The PDP, as we speak, is completely gone. Completely.
The PDP?
Yes.
You're calling PDP. The idea of the PDP, Wike said that he wants PDP. Wike started working with Tinubu 2018, 2017. That was why Amechi could not get a candidate in 2019 under his party in Rivers State. It continued. 2023, Amechi still didn't get one. So Wike has been with Tinubu for a long time. I don't worry about it. Where I worry is the issues of heritage denial. It undermines, the enterprise of inclusion for all tribes. For me now to be forced to deny who I am so as to gain inclusion, so as to gain acceptance, that's wrong. That's not good. That's not proper. Worst part, you saw Tinubu spending $3.9 billion on infrastructure. Where did he put Lagos, Ibadan, Kaduna, and Kano. What about the East, where the wealth comes from the hydrocarbon fields? Just like what Buhari did. Ibekachukwu drew the National Gas Master Plan with the East in it. The East is the home of gas. The largest gas deposit in Africa is in Imo State at a place called Anon North in Ohaji. How come? And that particular place is the richest onshore oil-bearing part of Nigeria. That Obaru Basin, because all the leads from Obaru in Ndiono, in River State, which in Igbo is called Ndiono, Ndioniyi, the people on the water bank. The other Ndiono is Ndiono in Atani, where Stella Odua was representing. So you now have Obaru in that Atani. You also have Obaru in Ndiono. All the leads from Obaru in Ndiono, and Stella Odua was representing Obaru in Atani. So inside the middle of it is the largest onshore oil-bearing part of Nigeria and the largest gas field in the whole of Africa. And yet, Buhari will build a gas master plan without the East included in the master plan. Doesn't that tell you that the APC seems not to be thinking about our future when it comes to making sure you do things to sustain peace?
Let me ask you this before we round up. Peter Obi came out last week to allege, on record, that his source of livelihood are being targeted by the federal government. But worse, when he was asked, ticket next year or the ballots, he said no, that he may not even be on the ballot. He said, what do you mean? He said that his life, that he may not even be alive. Are you worried for Peter Obi's
I'm
safety?
worried, but I'm also happy that he went public. Because I know Peter. Peter doesn't talk frivolously. Before he says a thing, he holds it. For him to be forced to do this, I believe him. And so it was good. As he said it, he now went outside to cool everything down. Right now, he's in Europe. Last week when we spoke, he was in the US. And he was meeting a lot of people and talking to the world. So he goes to Europe now. He's also talking to the people and meeting people. It makes sense. It was a good thing that he did make that announcement. And I will say it now, and I'll restate it for those who heard me say it before. I believe Peter Obi's words. Peter is not a man who makes frivolous comments or statements. For him to say that he has credible intelligence, that his life is under threat, I believe him. And a lot of us who are with him believe him. The government should please make sure they warn all the rogue agents around. It may not be the government, but there could be rogue units in different places doing different things, thinking that they are doing it, just like the thing you saw in Lokoja. It's not the government, but there are rogue agents doing that. And we found out on interrogation, it's not even a political party. It's some kind of a social association that say they are registered as corporate affairs commission. The law says political parties, you can have elephant display the clothes of lion or what tiger. The first person that registers tiger at INEC as his logo, that's what the law says. So why will some crazy rogue unit go? And that's the same thing. So there are several rogue units working independently. And that's why we thought it's good that Peter has said this. Let government tell them that there are consequences if anybody tries this. Because when the government kept quiet during the voter suppression by MC Oloma and co in Lagos, just the government staying hands and looking the other way emboldened those who were doing the voter suppression. This is the same thing. Let the attacks on Peter's business and his person stop. Wow. The government has to call those people to order. You remember Yaradua was there, and when other people complained about what PDP was doing, Yaradua instructed the courts to simply let them be. Tinubu should have tried to allow the political parties to be.
So, final question. Can President Tinubu still be defeated in 2027, this coming election? Can he be defeated? And what plans do you have to forestall any shenanigan, rigging, manipulating the INEC or judiciary? What's the plan?
I'm not going to tell you publicly now plans that parties will use to hold. I've only given you just one. What one I gave you is because I know what will happen. the opposition could just adopt the Kanu doctrine. You know what that means. You vote, you stay there. It's either they count the votes or they count the persons. So for me, I have no doubt that Tinubu should allow for free and fair elections. If you allowed free and fair election, we saw what happened in 2023. Nothing has changed. The suffering has increased. The insecurity has doubled. What I'm angry about is Tinubu's incompetence in managing or even calibrating a reaction to the violence, to the insecurity. What I'm worried about is Tinubu's embrace of nepotism as policy. I'm from the East and I'm not happy. If Tinubu shares infrastructure project, he doesn't give to the East. The Southeast, South, the old Eastern region doesn't get anything. What you got in sharing infrastructure to the tune of 3.9 billion was the old Northern region, the old Western region. So where is the Eastern region? I am from the East. Why should I be happy? The people you see who are saying, don't talk, living, most of them from the East, those are people who have become heavily corrupted and compromised. So for them to just blindly say, don't talk, leave Tinubu, because they don't want to be probed. You understand what I'm saying? Someone like Omoye, all those behaviors is due to the amount of corruption that he's become involved. Now look at it. A girl died in his house. Regular police thing is to allow the police to do the investigation because there is murder. Murder is not private between family and family. No, it's a state issue. Once there's murder involved, the case will be you versus the commissioner of police.
Nice place to anchor. Dr. Kach, it's been a pleasure having you on this afternoon. Thanks for coming. And I'm sure we'll do this again.
This again. I can listen to Dr. No story is told with a single. I always believe in that no phenomenon is ever described with a single story. So we'll continue to describe, just like when we went to election 2022, when I was telling them, they said, why are you doing this? It's too late. Then in the PDP, when we got out and we started the movement, people joined us from all walks of life. It was an organic movement. And I can assure you, we can organically organize again. If the government knows that the opposition will not win, why are they afraid?
Bam!
Absolutely. Thanks for coming, Dr. Kach.
Thank you very much for having me.
We'll see you there soon.
I also thank your audience for the patience. We'll continue to share and rub minds. But of course, as I will want to tell all of them, the country is bad because we've been docile.
Yes.
And we've not been able to show courage.
That's right.
We should show dignity and be courageous in saving Nigeria.
That's right. Thank you, Dr. This interview blew my mind. I'm going to bring you Showore's interview. We're going to listen to that. It's going to be a long life today. It's going to be, stay with me. Ignore the grammar, the American, the Nigerian, local Nigerian American grammar that I'm blowing. You understand? Blame other uncles that travel to America early in life for this. Okay. All right. Let's get right into it. All right. This interview was fire. There were gems inside.
As anybody. He's a very good friend of mine. But this is...
Like Showore, not like Showore, this interview had a lot of revelations. Okay? I mean, Showore, they misbehave seriously. We all agree. But sometimes it's good to listen to everybody so that you go know. Truth, they always dey inside. They say there's the diamonds in the rough, they say sometimes, right? So here we are. Okay. I know I'm muting it because the show never really starts. So just to catch up. Greetings, all of you. Tracy, my girl. Thank you very much. You were the first person. Thank you very much, everybody. Sid, I thank you. Rose, I thank you. Michael Oriyomi, Eyomi Pataki. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. So anyway, let's jump right into it.
So in Atlanta,
he stole 25,000
from one of his clients. And that was what led him to run away from the US. Came back to Nigeria and
What
joined.
year was this?
This must have been in the 2000s. I can't remember the exact year.
Guys,
So when I did
please
the story,
continue
I
to
never
like,
knew.
like the show, share, please, and subscribe. Thank you.
I knew him when we were in the student union. He used to work at NTA.
That's you knew her.
Yes, I'm sorry, I knew her. And I said, I haven't heard from you in a while. And he said, what did my brother do to you? I said, who's your brother? I said, Gwaja now.
CKP, thank you so much.
He said,
I
there's
see
a
the
story that you wrote
people.
about
Oh my
him on
God.
Sahara Reporters. Is there any way we can do to help him?
Kene,
Oh, wow. I
welcome,
said,
oh.
so you know a thief?
How is
She laughed.
Billionaire?
And that was the last I heard of the story. So I wasn't surprised. In fact,
Is he an Ikwere man? Dr. Patch, is he Ikwere? Yeah, na him go for me, but no, Ikwere people, they agree, say that I don't even know, no concern, that one no concern.
This is Naija Unfiltered
Kene, welcome,
on Symphony
oh.
TV. My name is Olawale Oluwade.
Oh,
And my
Victor,
guest
sorry,
today
no vex.
is the presidential candidate of the African Action
Good morning,
Congress,
good afternoon, good evening, wherever
Mr.
you are.
or should I say
Thank you
Comrade
as you all
Omoye
come in. I don't know, let me push that like button.
nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again.
Subscribe.
You're welcome.
Thank
We're
you
going to
very
jump
much,
right
Robert.
into
I see you've been in and out of battlefronts.
Yes.
Let's get right
Thank
into
you.
our
I hail
conversation.
you, Toju. Welcome.
The Federal High Court, I think yesterday, has rejected your application for adjournment, ordering you to return to court for the continuation of your defense in the cybercrime and all of that case. Give us an update on this, please.
Well, the update is that we are in court to defend what I call the indefensible. That is like a citizen of Nigeria in 2026 is being arraigned in court by a third party for an offense that practically does not exist, and it's cybercrime, which is based on an amended law that says that if you insult someone and it could lead to a breakdown of law and order, you are liable for trial. I do not understand where it came from, but I understand that the Nigerian state has a historical axe to grind with me. And I've been saying that since I was in the university, they've targeted me, and that was what led to my expulsion twice at the University of Lagos under the military, Babangida, Abacha, and then several arrests. NYC, I've spoken extensively about it. I went and did my NYC in 95, finished in 96. As I was about to collect the certificate, they arrested me, detained me, and I never got an NYC certificate till today. And subsequently after, it's been one legal issue or the other. But for the period that I was even outside of the country for about 20 years, they were targeting me with lawsuits related to investigative reports that were published by Sahara Reporters. Those lawsuits are categorized as SLAP, the strategic lawsuit against public participation. So the moment I returned to the country in 2019 to start running for political office, they started targeting. In fact, they started before the political office. It was when I started Sahara Reporters Media Foundation in the Ikeja area of Lagos that they resumed the hostilities against me. So I take it as one of the hostilities. In fact, in 2019, apart from being charged with treason, I was also charged for cybercrime. I was accused of the same offense, that I insulted late President Buhari. I was also charged in 2025 by the outgone, disgraced, illegal IGP 4 different times. I think 2 of them were also cybercrime offenses. So, but one thing that's run through all of this is that they target my freedom of movement, association, and my ability to freely speak, because they know the power that our speech carry in this society, that it has that ability to wake up the conscience of the nation, especially this new generation of young people. And that is where the lawsuit came from. That's where this trial came from. And that is where judges like this come from, who say to you, "Oh, go and defend yourself." And we say, "We're ready to defend yourself." And he says, "Oh, your lawyer should shut up. Come and kneel down here." That's the same judge that asked my lawyer to kneel down. And another lawyer, the new legal team came. He said he can't wait for us to defend ourselves properly. And as a result, he's trying to abridge our own defense time when he didn't do the same to the other party, which is the government. So I am not in any way surprised that this is happening, because this is the political season too, in which the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is doing everything he can to ensure that there's no opposition in the next election. And I think for different opposition groups, I'm using the word opposition loosely now, he has a position on how to take them out. So if he's not using the courts to deregister parties, he's using internal crisis to, timing the ability of the parties to organize. And for a party like us that is ideologically different, they target the leadership of the party for incarceration and criminal conviction that in cases that do not exist. So I'm used to it. It's complete political persecution, but mine just have lasted longer than several others.
Okay, you said the plaintiff in this case is a third party.
Yes.
Who is the person?
That's the State Security Service, the DSS. The law is explicit. That is the Cybercrime Act of 2015. Which was just signed into law by Goodluck Jonathan, by the way, that the person who is allegedly offended must be the direct complainant. In fact, that was how we defeated Buhari in 2019, and they had to drop that charge against me. And our argument at that time was very easy, that you cannot come and claim that Buhari would not come and testify or explain himself. And so we had a lighter side to it. That how was Buhari cyber stalked or cyber bullied, considering that he has ear infection that he's been treating? So they just quietly dropped it. And eventually they dropped a treason charge. But one thing that is wrong, and that's why we're trying to correct the wrong in the society, is that somebody will be completely brought under false charges, dragged through the courts, and by the time the case is over, the person is found not to have committed an offense, but they have ruined your life, your businesses, they'll try to ruin your reputation as well. And you don't get any respite. When they are done with that first hubris, they come with another one. They just keep coming at you and hoping for what could stick. That's the way I see all of this, yes.
Some human rights advocates, civil society groups have said all of these cases are geared towards silencing opposition. Just like you referenced, it will seem, there are different approaches to different yes, individuals or political parties,
yes,
and all of that. But do you believe that is actually the case? And why are you playing in your own specific case? Don't you think you're playing into their hands?
No, see, you must understand Nigeria historically. Nigeria has defined enemies in different places or categories of intervention. There are people Nigeria defines as enemy of the ruling class from the ethnic angle. So if you say to them, we want a Nigeria that is working, and if it's not working, we want to leave, they will say you are playing into their hands. That's Nnamdi Kanu. The one that said, oh, let's manage our resources. Our environment has been destroyed. Ken Saro-Wiwa. You accuse him of playing to their hands, right? The one who said, we need pure political elections. People like Awolowo. Did he play into their hands when they sent him into prison in 1963? Of course. It's a system. It's a system that is rigged against justice. So Anybody who is shallow-minded will say you are playing into their hands. No. What you need to do in Nigeria to be a victim or a villain is to do what is just and right. That's all. And to be consistent about it. The people who will do even worse things, say worse things about Tinubu, people like Reno Amor, Chris, Femi Fani, the moment they play the game appropriately, they get into the system and they get rewarded. But those of us who refuse to be part of the rot, the ruination of the nation, we become villains. So you just need to have a good conscience and to be consistent in doing right, to play into their hands. It's the way Nigeria is. Ask yourself, was Abiola an activist? But the Nigerian people, in those days, some people, shallow-minded people, say he played into their hands by declaring himself president. What are you supposed to do after winning an election? And you know the results of the election. The man who conducted the election came back later and said he won. The man who annulled the election came back later and said he won and apologized. But when Abiola was standing up for his mandate, right, ignoramuses were saying that he was playing into their hands. But have we not come full circle? Should we have allowed the country to be ruined in 1993? Had we had that election honored, our democracy by now will be close to 30-something years old. And we'll probably have been used to free and fair election because there's no way we would have stepped down from that standard that was created. We only have had room for improvement, which is supposed to be the largest room in the world.
Let me clarify what I meant by playing into their hands. If I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I am, the substance of this case is that you called the president a criminal.
Yes.
That's it, right?
That's correct.
Now, I reckon in the court now, you're being asked to produce evidence to back up your claim.
No, that's the problem.
Okay.
The court doesn't want the evidence.
No, how?
Because
the court cannot ask you.
The lawyer who was presenting the evidence, Marshal Abubakar, young, vibrant lawyer, was the one the judge said, no, I don't want to hear from you again. I'm tired. Don't make any more presentation. And the guy said, no, I'm presenting evidence. He said, come and kneel down.
Is that applicable in our judicial system that a judge would ask a lawyer to kneel down?
That's what I'm telling you, that if they were interested in proving the case, the judge would not have lost his cool when we were presenting the evidence. We presented evidence in court already up to the points where he has a lawyer to kneel down. And we said, sir, we no longer trust you. This is implicit and explicit bias. We applied. I moved the motion that he should recuse himself. I said no. We wrote to the chief judge. They said no, he should continue with the case. There's no judge in the world who continues with a case legally if they've been accused of bias. Even during the military era, I mentioned Abiola a while ago. When Supreme Court justices were accused of collecting Mercedes Benz, they said they cannot handle Abiola's case because they cannot prove that they are not biased in that Concord case. So in this case, this just says no. What I'm trying to tell you is that we were willing and ready, prepared to prove our case. The judge said, no, you can't.
You have new lawyers now.
We have new lawyers.
And they're still going to present.
And that's what the judge doesn't want. The judge is asking us to foreclose our case. The prosecutor is asking us to foreclose our case after 2 appearances of the new lawyers. That the judge should not listen to us simply because we asked for an adjournment. To prepare better, we have subpoenas that we have sent to the judge to sign and approve. He had not approved it as of yesterday, but he said he can't wait. And we still have more witnesses we want to call. We want to call the president to come to court. They don't want us to get that. That's how you prove a case. See, if the justice system were to be working in Nigeria, there's no judge. The person that is most patient in the courtroom is a judge. Very patient. But the most impatient person in our cases, in these cases, when you want to see injustice, is the judge. Shut you up. It's like a tribunal. Go to hell. They will tell you, If you are not satisfied, go to the court of appeal, go to the appeal. We didn't come to you because we want to appeal a case. I was brought before you so that you can give a fair, balanced, and unbiased trial. If that fails, and I tell you I have no confidence in you, you're supposed to just say, I'm sorry, I have no interest in the case. Go to another judge.
Are you sure you can get justice?
I have never been under any illusion that I'll walk into a Nigerian court and get justice, except on occasions where the circumstances and the social variables don't permit them to do injustice. It's always been that the preponderance of injustice is higher because we exist in a republic, or what I call the Federal Republic of Injustice. And your Minister of Justice should be called the Minister of Injustice.
That's the Attorney General?
Yes, of the Federation.
Alhaji Lateef Fagbemi.
Whomever he is. You know, this is not my first trial. I was tried by Malami as well for treason.
You know, you said you are not under any illusion that you will get justice in Nigerian courts. That seems to me like a paradox or a sort of contradiction, not even a paradox, because so far, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think any Nigerian court has convicted you. Of all I can say hundreds of cases you've encountered.
Because I have never committed a crime.
Exactly.
Before.
So that should mean
No, tell me. See, the person that's supposed to be convicted is a person who has committed a crime and found to have committed a crime. So going around circles, trying to hang somebody who hasn't committed a crime is not justice. In fact, the injustice starts from charging someone for an offense he hasn't committed. So, and a judge, and I'm very clear about this, I don't have to take permission from anyone. A judge who accepts to commence the trial of a person who has not committed an offense has started the injustice from that day. And as part of my bail condition, she restricted me to Abuja and took my passport. I spent 3 years unable to leave Abuja. First citizen in my own era who was restricted to a city, Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. He said, I can't travel 25 kilometers, beyond 25 kilometers radius of Abuja, which technically means that I can't even play to the airport, right? How did it end? Took my passport. I ended up spending 5 years in Nigeria, held up in Nigeria. So you expect me to think of that country or the judicial system as fair when eventually at the end, she couldn't even continue the case. And they came one day and withdrew the charges. No restitution. They didn't say, look, Shore, we're sorry for wasting 5 years of your time in Nigeria. It was only Awolowo that has ever been restricted before to Lekki, not the popular Lekki. There's a Lekki after Dangote refinery. That's where he was restricted. And Pai Modu, who was restricted to Auchi by colonial masters. And what was he accused of? What technically is cybercrime today, which is referred to as sedition in those days, if you say things that the colonial masters don't like. So why would you even be discussing conviction for a guy? I didn't commit murder. I wasn't involved in corruption. I did not loot anybody. I didn't engage in any criminal offense. All of my offenses are associated with exercise of my fundamental human rights. Yes.
One of your associates, journalist Zainab Sodiq, was recently arrested by the DSS, July 8th, for allegedly possessing a drone.
Yes.
What happened? And I hope she's free now.
Well, she's free, and she's somewhere around here. She was. I was asked to produce my passport for the court, and as I was planning to travel to Lagos to get the passport, or let's put it this way, we're getting the passport, but the American embassy was closing for holidays, July 4th. And by the time the judge gave us the order to process, The American embassy on Thursday had already closed. July 4th was Friday.
Independence Day.
So reached out to them and said, and my next trial was Monday. So if I don't show up in court because I'm trying to get my passport, which is to fulfill the bail condition, the judge will claim again that I have John bail and send me back to prison, which was their plan. So I wrote to the embassy, please, I need someone to pick my passport for me. And they agreed. And she was returning to Abuja.
The passport was the U.S. Embassy for
business
purposes.
Yes. Okay. So it was the passport they were targeting with the hope of seizing the passport from her, not the drone. The drone I asked her to bring is a drone that I've been using to cover elections for years. They claimed that she was in possession of a drone that had no what they call end user certificate. It was an administrative process put in place by the National Security Advisor. It had no legal basis. Drone is not classified as a weapon in Nigeria. And we're talking about a commercial drone. If you go to parties across Nigeria, they're flying them in churches. In fact, they use them to fan people if you are sweating at parties in Lagos. So everyone knows these drones. Of course, they made this law, but the law is made for people who are importing the drone. It's not made for people who already have the drone. But even if it is, she was approached to say, who owns the drone? He put me on the phone. I said, I'm the owner of the drone. So now there's no question about who committed the offense. And they said, we can't let you travel with the drone because it doesn't have this end user. She left it with them. Came to Abuja. We went and fulfilled the bail. But before we got to bail fulfilled, they were already hovering around the courts that I had not fulfilled my bail. They want to arrest me. So they didn't know that I had submitted the passport to the. So they now lured her to come and collect the drone. Said, it's Shore's drone. We don't want problem with him. Please come and don't let anybody come and collect it. She went to go and collect the drone faithfully, thinking that these guys are honest people. They abducted her. For 3 hours, we didn't know her whereabouts. When eventually, luckily enough, we had told her that on your way, tell us who the person is who asked you to come and collect the drone. Turns out to be a DSS officer. They abducted her. 3 hours later, we called the number and they admitted that she was with them and that she was going to be released. It's just administrative. And about an hour later, we sent a call for a lawyer to come and get her. But when the lawyer got there, they showed him my tweets. I was like, we're going to release her, but see, Shore just called us lawless. So we're going to hold this young lady to ransom on his behalf. I'm just explaining to you how petty and reckless. This is the same DSS that is prosecuting me. It's the same DSS that came to court to rough handle me, claiming that they must force me to go to prison. When I was waiting for the judge to issue his detention bench warrant, you saw the videos. So it has nothing to do with drone. It's a continuous, they're just looking for, what they thought was weak link. Who do we have? Yes, maybe if we arrest this guy, we'll seize our phones, we might find some things that we can use to blackball or blackmail Shore with. That's all it's about, And they took her phones and didn't return it to today. All her phones.
Her phones?
Yes.
Not returned till today. Why? What's the reason for that?
They said that has to be applied for separately. Yes. So this is just their tactic. I know them very well. That's why I call them absolutely lawless organization. But it's only in Nigeria where we can have this bunch of incompetent, shallow-minded people manage
to be serious, Shore, there must be a reason for seizure of our phones. There must be a reason.
No reason was adduced. None. She was arrested and detained for 3 days. And when
Is she been charged to court for any offense?
No, they said we should bring somebody to bail her. We sent shorties there, said the shorty is not qualified. At the end, they ended up detecting which shorty they wanted. And, even though we presented several shorties, they rejected about 4 shorties the first night, and they then called some of our colleagues and said, if she can bring the IPI person, who is my friend Majid. Majid wasn't in town. Majid was sent his vice. This is just part of the tactic. You see, this is what they call, counter Interpro in those days in the US.
Interesting. Okay, let's switch gears. How did you receive the news of the successful rescue of the 46 or 47 pupils and their teachers and principal in the Orire saga? How did that news come to you?
Well, it turns out that news came about the same time Zainab was released. So it makes us, for those who are the victims, it's great relief. But those who lost their life, I felt really bad because it shouldn't have happened in the first place. And I do not need to tell people that the reason they abducted and kept for so long was because government failed them. Yeah, government failed them. And anybody who wants to take a political capital out of it by saying you should thank the president as a person I'm upset with. These are the kinds of things that lead to the resignation of government people at all levels, the firing of several people. But the people of Orire are just the victims who got the loudest complaints. We still have kids that are in captivity for months in Borno State. We have in Kwara State and several other parts of the country. But don't forget that we didn't even get here until we had to declare major protests across the country. It was that
they spent 56 days.
Yes, it was in one of the protests I was tear gassed and I collapsed. When to take it back, our movements shut down Ibadan several times, and several other Nigerians protested to ensure that this disgraceful abduction of our kids was ended. But my heart goes out to these kids who were unfortunate to become victims of negligence and incompetence of our security agencies, the commander-in-chief, and those who ordinarily should protect them, including the governor of the state, particularly those who lost their life in the process. I feel like somebody in government is experimenting with lives in this country, and everybody's like a guinea pig in this country, and we hope it doesn't get to everybody. But if we keep going this way, it's going to get worse.
Yeah. I'm worried, and many Nigerians are worried, not just, I'm sure you're worried as well, that outlaws, bandits, kidnappers, terrorists, insurgents could actually kidnap not one, not five, not 10, scores of Nigerians, and they would keep them in captivity for days, months. Some, victims, some kidnapped victims have been in captivity for months now. Borno.
And there's several of them that you and I don't even know about.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So my next question, Comrade Showore, is that assess President Tinubu's performance in the last 3 years on insecurity, on the economy, mass poverty, and the rest of them.
Tinubu came to fail.
He came to fail.
Yes. And because
he was overwhelmed by what he met on ground.
Well, I don't think he was overwhelmed. I think ab initio, he was not competent to do this job.
But he said Emilokon.
Yes, because that's how to politically appeal to his base. All these politicians, they have their base, and there's something we call red meat. So to ginger them, and let's use Nigerian parlance, you have to throw red meat to your base. And the word that was red meat to his base was Emilokon, it's my turn. And they could resonate with it because he had been one of the political undertakers for several of his colleagues who came to, particularly Buhari. So that reference was to Buhari and his refusal to openly endorse him for president, as he had expected. But he was never competent to do this job. And that's why I said he came to fail. And all the signs were there during the elections, the way he answered questions, the way he was unable to articulate anything. And some people have said that they were deliberate, so that people didn't ask serious questions, and I knew it and spoke against it, and I predicted everything that happened now. Now, this guy, I even went on Yoruba radio stations in Ibadan, Lagos in those days and said, what the Yorubas call a Milokon will become a Nikon Loba. Yes, which in English means you said it's your turn, but you soon discover that it is a person who gets touched that will feel it. So that's how to paraphrase it. And it has come to pass because this problem has moved beyond the natural theater of kidnapping, banditry, and terrorism to every household. I mean, nobody probably thought in their widest imagination that bandits will kidnap kids in Oyo State and keep them in Oyo Forest for 56 days. And the combined forces of the federal government could not penetrate just that circle to get these kids out. In fact, the bandits reportedly killed soldiers who were trying to rescue several times. And I have no doubt, and I'll say this, that I'm sure that this release was negotiated between the government and these bandits are somewhere probably smiling to the bank.
No, but that's not the reports we got. There was a shootout, reportedly, there was a shootout. We lost one or two soldiers, even maybe an officer. And then, of course, some of the bandits were, neutralized. Some of them captured.
Did you see them captured?
We see some of them captured. We
you saw them?
We saw on videos. I don't know, but we saw videos.
And they told you they're captured from that place.
We saw.
There was a time we used to trace DSS, when DSS used to parade terrorists. Yeah. And there was a time they paraded some terrorists. We took the pictures, and then another year later, that's Mary Oga, that notorious DSS, and we discovered that the same people they paraded the last time. So there's a cell where they keep people for parade. So what is their time? They just come out.
You can't verify this.
Well, I can tell you that because I know them very well. Yes.
Anyway, so you're not impressed with the president's handling of the country in the area of insecurity. What about the economy? They are pointing at achievements. GDP has come down. GDP has grown. Inflation rate has come down. They are building roads. They are giving student loans. And, the Naira is firm, it's steady, even though it's high, but it's steady anyway. And then, of course, the FX balance, foreign exchange.
Do you know what foreign exchange is? Do you know what foreign exchange is? Is the credit card for the ostentatious life of the elite. It's the cash backing so that whatever you bring in, and let me explain why. It's the reason that, Nigeria has almost the highest interest rates for fixed deposits. They can tell you, America is about 4 to 5%. Nigeria can tell you that they want, if you put money in a bank, that they'll give you 26% or some high amount. They can even pay you in advance. So economically, it will make sense for America to come and have FX in it for their foreign, deposits in Nigeria. They won't. They don't even have anywhere because they control the world. But they will ask you, come and keep money, your own money, in the Bank of England or JP Morgan. These are private banks. And you then start calculating it and say, it's now at 63 billion. What for? Who benefits from it? It's those banks. Because you basically deposit money that's meant for you or for your country in their bank, and they're using it to do business. In fact, they might borrow that money back to you at interest rates higher than you have never had to do it before. They'll call it, don't you see sometimes they'll say, Nigeria is soliciting for Euro bonds and is oversubscribed. Do you know the reason why it's oversubscribed? Because the return on investment for Euro bond when it's Nigeria that is borrowing is the highest, because Nigeria they don't have good collateral as far as they're concerned. So, but they'll be celebrating it. I'm just telling you all these things they're celebrating. Measure it against the standard of living in your country. Is your life better? Can you travel on those roads? Can you really travel from one part of the country to, can you get a job? Can you sustain a job? Do you have electricity? If you don't have all those things, all this GDP, rebasing of economy, they're just rhetorics, just economic gymnastics to fool their way. There was a time in this country, I think it was a conjurer where they came and said they rebased the Nigerian economy and it's the biggest in Africa, and everybody was celebrating it. And I said, this is rubbish. Because in South Africa that you claim you are bigger than, ask them what is their per capita kilowatt in electricity compared to yours. It's higher. So it's just like somebody who has 20,000 naira, who decided that he wants to increase the value of the money by adding zero to make it 200,000 naira. But when you go and use the money to buy something, you still have 20,000 naira technically. That's what rebasing is about. But they know what they're doing because they have a country to fool. The World Bank, who is their boss, IMF, who is their supervisor, said that these guys cannot account for 8.3 trillion naira, 8.8 trillion naira. The National Assembly, which is a rubber stamp, says to you that 210 trillion naira is missing from NNPC. They can't even get the guy who was the chairman, who was the GMD of NNPC at that time, to come and appear before them. We have several of these corruption stories that are going on. We just read from a newspaper yesterday that the chief of staff took 54 billion naira from Nopre. We have allegations that he took 400 million naira from a person to sell a position that doesn't exist, fake agency, to him. Those are the real issues. And Nigeria's population that is in multidimensional poverty is about to increase from 100 million to 140 million people out of 200 million. Those are the statistics we should be looking at, not the ones that they are making up. Even their statistics section here, I don't know what they call it, something.
NBS, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics.
They have, if you look at what they have been churning out, they had variance with all these lies.
Okay, 1 minute, Mr. Shuwer. The Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway.
Yeah.
You don't believe it's a legacy project? It's for the benefit of Nigeria. It will turn around. It's a magic that will do wonders for Nigerian economy.
I was the one who proposed that there will be a Badagry Calabar expressway that will start from the border. But so that you know, the Lagos Calabar Highway is not Tinubu's idea. It's not even my idea. It was the West Africa Coastal Highway that was established, I think, in 1985 or so. The section that Tinubu started from Lagos was supposed to start from Ivory Coast and go all the way to Calabar. And subsequently, even was supposed to get up to South Africa if they did it. It was supposed to be accompanied by a fast train. So what Tinubu did, he was building a bundugo. What's the bundugo? It's called Eco Atlantic. Yeah. Yes. It's supposed to be some land that bigger than Victoria land that they are recovering from the Atlantic Ocean. Foolish idea. Because why are you recovering land from Atlantic Ocean when there's land, dry land in your country? But let's wait for a moment and say it made sense. It was for Tinubu to connect that bundugo with another real estate that you people don't really know much about that belongs to them, Dangote Refinery and the Lagos export zone in the airport area. And they are planning also in an airport in that area. So this idea was primarily to construct that 47 to 50 kilometer to connect that place. It was your outcry, my outcry, and the revelations that we had that made them to extend it to Calabar, and they started now digging. I can predict, and I'm not a prophet of doom, that these guys will not even do 400 kilometers before they pack up. It will be one of the white elephant projects. They're also building another one from Sokoto.
Yes, but I agree to Sokoto.
Do I want this? These are things that I predicted and want to do. In fact, my own idea of an interstate highway for Nigeria is for every state to be connected by dual carriageway. That was how America revived its country. And to have a triangular highway, which will be Badagry to Calabar, and from Calabar to Sokoto, and Sokoto back to Badagry. But it should not be a no-bid contract. And secondly, we should have considered, instead of just a highway, high-speed trains, so that I can kick off my shoes and travel from Lagos to Calabar in 4 hours. which Morocco and Algeria is still doing. This World Cup that we're watching led me to watch the train system in Morocco, Senegal. These are countries that technically are not in any way close to even the economy of Lagos. And because of their desire to build the Lagos Calabar Expressway in their own way, which is shady and opaque, they did not do environmental impact assessment. And without doing that, you cannot discover the volume of water that needs to come in.
Though they said they have anyway. They said they did.
Well,
Mr.
this
Omoye said
Lagos
they did.
flooding that happened recently has been connected to the horrid manner the road was built, because there are probably not enough drainage. Yes, I went to, if you go to Eco Atlantic, they have a massive drainage there. It's already falling apart, So whomever is living in Lagos, I'll predict again, you better go and learn how to do scuba diving. Because I'm a geographer. That's my first degree, and we did a whole year, what they call geography of Lagos State, and we had seen all this. I'm a town and regional planner. I did groundwater hydrology, and I can tell you that the interferences that are happening in terms of this incompetent development is going to imperil human life. What I would have done differently, just so that Nigerians would know, is that I would have built that highway. And if you look at the one they are building now, very small. Mine would have been 6 lanes on both sides, but I would have also built 1 million houses along that, so that it would be a linear settlement, well planned, great drainage, has its own schools, airports, what I call mixed income housing. Rich and the poor can live together, because the idea of a rich man living in a place and the poor living, far away and not trying to get to work should not even exist.
We'll come back and talk about some other time. But let me ask you quickly. The First Lady, Senator Remi Tinubu, trying to help Nigerians economically, advised that Nigerians should not resist the idea of dabbling into small-scale businesses, frying akara, bean cakes in English, in local parlance we call it akara.
Yes.
Frying akara, selling kuli, roasting corn, and all of that. Take this together, respond to that, and also the president's media advisor, Daniel Bola, over the weekend said at a program in Lagos, Morale showed that a Nigerian who earned 60,000, way below the minimum wage, 70,000 naira, is fares better than anybody in the UK who is earning 2,600 pounds sterling a month. Respond to this.
These are people who are confused, and their level of confusion is beclouding their sense of reasoning. Right? The truth is that you can't blame Madam Tinubu. She doesn't understand the meaning of small businesses or small-scale businesses. As far as she's concerned, small-scale businesses are businesses that are in front of your door. That's not small-scale business. In fact, technology has advanced so much now that if Nigeria had electricity, had its infrastructure in place, a lot of people could be working with companies abroad without you knowing them, and they'll be living better. But MTN is going to kill you. Airtel, there was a girl who was crying the other day that she was working abroad, but one of the projects she was doing got taken away because data was a problem. So they're not thinking futuristically. They are cocooned to feel that the people who are frying akara and kuli those are not small business people. Those are people who are trying to survive. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with baking beans. In fact, it is possible these days for you to bake beans without anybody knowing that you are doing it in front of your house. Technology can make you bake beans, deliver it to people across, and you can become a millionaire. But like I said, she's speaking to her base. They are campaigning, and they are campaigning to the poor to keep having the hope that one day they will make it. It's just like going to a church. One church I watched one day, one guy was saying, by next year, everybody in this church will have a Rolls Royce. And everybody said, amen. And over 2,000 people there. And if I was in the church, I would have raised up my hand and, Pastor, How many Rolls Royces do they make a year? Why are you praying for us to have 2,000 Rolls Royces in this church, knowing that only 109 of them is made worldwide? Exaggerating. But I'm just using that as a metaphor to describe how they raise the hope of the poor so that they will go and vote for them again. Regarding Daniel Bola is as confused as anybody. He's a very good friend of mine, but this is his own desperate moment to shine. If you are saying that somebody who is earning 60,000 naira in Nigeria is better than somebody who is, and that means you don't understand what they call quality of life. And without understanding quality of life, then you can't understand what wages and income has that the role they have to play. Let's do this. Let's place Daniel Bola on minimum wage, 77,000 naira per month. And if you ever hear from him again,
let's move from
before
there.
the end of this regime.
Let's move. I'm sure Daniel would not want that. If you were commander-in-chief today, what would you do differently to ensure the security of lives and properties of Nigerians? 1 or 2 minutes.
Yes. So as the commander-in-chief, one of my major concern, I'll divide it into 3. There will be immediate short-term measures that needs to be taken. And this will be likely to find very well-equipped, well-trained, well-motivated security agents across the country who are here to work, not necessarily army generals who are real estate developers technically, who are moonlighting as army generals, to make sure that they're also mobile, they have modern equipment to track, to collect intelligence, share it, and foil where most of these guys operate from. And where you find them, you should also have immediate legal systems in place to try expeditiously anybody who has committed a crime and pay for it. If you're a kidnapper, we don't waste time with you, but we'll make sure that innocent people are not caught up in the trial system, because that's why the police is a problem for me. Because if you have 250,000 policemen, technically only 210,000, but there are guys that are collecting money for who don't exist. A lot of them are ghost workers with ghost pay. You are supposed to be everywhere. 200,000 policemen that are well equipped, well motivated. And that's why I propose 500,000 naira minimum wage for anybody who is working in this country. They are well motivated, they are well equipped to rapidly respond to any terrorist activity. One of the things that is absent in Nigeria is that if you're in trouble, you have nobody to call. And if you call anybody, they will not respond because they don't have vehicles. Look, an average DPO gets maybe 40,000 naira to run his police station. What are you going to do with 40,000? So you leave them to send even the officers to go and extort money for the DPO, and the DPO extort money he gives to the area commander, and the area commander extorts and gives to the CP. You have a police force where people are no longer doing police work. They are just businessmen and women. And the second aspect is, of course, the medium term, is to locate areas of problems.
Hotspots.
And deploy appropriate force to deal so that they don't spread. Yes, because these guys move. You move, we move with them. I'll have drones all over. I'm not talking about the drone they see from Zainab. I'm talking about military-grade drones that can be in the air for up to 10 hours, monitoring people both day and night. If you are moving in the bush, they can detect you even when you think you're not detected through infrared technology. They will sense your temperature when you are asleep.
Heat maps.
Yes, all over the place. And you have a command center that is showing all these locations, and troops are being deployed as movements are happening. Mobile, very well designed. Anybody in 2026 that is fighting terrorism in Hilux van is not ready to fight terrorism. Or as the former chief of army staff was doing, they even had motorbikes. My goodness, those are moving targets for terrorists. The moment, in fact, if a terrorist wants to kill 2 soldiers on a motorbike, they don't need to shoot at them. They just need to shoot at their petrol tank. The petrol tank will explode and burn them to ashes. So you have all these incompetent people. But finally, and most importantly, the most important security. It's the national security that gives economic protection to everybody. We are not getting rid of crime until young people find employment, until pensioners get paid, until you pay people living wage. Then you reduce crime if you get all this done by 70% to start with. And then you corner the rest of the 30% and use law enforcement, adequate prosecution, and intelligence sharing to deal with it. And you can live in peace, prosperity, and progress forever and ever.
I couldn't agree anymore with you on the last point, which is the third point, which is unless we tackle mass poverty,
inequality in our society, we're not going anywhere.
I couldn't agree more with you. Most commentators, most policy people, even in government, don't
look. Let me tell you, China used to rely on guns, and they finally came to be at peace with their populace when they started relying on economic development. Yes.
What lines have this government, what lines have they crossed in your own views that has given you serious concerns or fears, red lines that the Tinubu administration, what lines have they crossed?
There's no line they have not crossed. They have crossed every line of decency. They have violated human rights. They have been some of the most corrupt governments. They have been very oppressive. They have engaged in impunity, both economically, socially, culturally. They've crossed political lines, ensuring that opposition does not exist, and they do it so brazenly. I don't know which lines they want to cross until there's a mass uprising.
Have we had any government? Because I've heard people sit where you sit now. People sat where you sit now. Tell me that. I had a professor here, actually, Professor Jibrin Ibrahim, who said he has not experienced any government in the history of Nigeria such as this. Do you agree?
I agree with him.
Wow.
There's no government that's been as brazen as the Tinubu government. I think the only thing Tinubu prepared himself for in coming to power, apart from failure, is to be as brazen as possible. And when people are that brazen, you have to quickly check something. It might be that they don't have time. Yeah. Because it's almost like suicidal, like they just tell them, go and do this, go and do that. When they were trying Nnamdi Kanu, they sent a message to me that they're going to kill him. So when we did that protest, they claim it was what made them change their position and said that, they would take him, put him in life imprisonment. They didn't flinch. The Tinubu regime, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, carried 14-year kids from Kano and Kaduna and charged them for treason. That's never happened before. That minors were charged for treason. So what is it that they haven't done?
Okay, for brevity of time, let's if you are president again, let me put you on the spot. Don't give explanations, just mention 2 or 3 top priority agenda economically. Top 3 priority agenda economically. Just mention them.
So I'm not talking economics. I'm talking about human development.
Yeah.
Yes, and building the capacity for. And my top priority will be electricity. Power and, let's break it down. Energy, because maybe electricity looks so simple. It is now welded into energy. And then education, because for you to help the country develop, you have to develop the manpower that will keep even the electricities and the power system running. You have to produce doctors, engineers, and that will be followed by food security, in such a way that everybody who wants to work can
have something in their stomach.
Yes. So, and then healthcare, and agriculture, yes.
Okay, let's speak about 1 minute or 2 on the first on electricity. Your fellow contestant, Mr. Peter Obi of the NDC, says he will do 10,000 megawatts in 4 years. How many would you do?
No, as of 2019, I was promising 25,000 because mine is going to not be just numbers. It's going to be diverse and very revolutionary electrical generation agenda. And one is to look at which part of the country you are. In the north, I'm going to set up solar farms.
So you're talking about an effective energy mix.
Yes.
Okay.
And most importantly, I'm going to completely destroy this thing they call national grids and break it into street grids, and I've also spoken about the retailing of electricity, which most people don't understand, that an average person, yourself, may not need to drive Uber for extra income, that you can actually grow electricity on your roof and sell to your street grid or to the national grid, and we pay you for it. So those mine will be an average of 30 to 40,000 megawatts of electricity in 4 years. Yes.
Fantastic.
And
you have a plan for this already?
Absolutely.
Like I said, we'll come back some other time.
And the difference between me and your candidate or your person is
I don't have a candidate.
I'm just saying, is that I can tell you that anytime if you wake me up in the night, I won't say that it's hidden, because these ideas we are propounding is meant for the future. And we won't be here forever. Maybe there's another generation that needs to take a baton for us. We owe them a duty to say, look, this is the knowledge we have about how we can make this country work, and you can take it from us whenever we get tired or we no longer exist. Yes.
We need to get your opinion, Comrade Showore, on this raging controversy involving the president's chief of staff, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, involving a certain Prince Adeni Adeyemi, who claimed he gave 400 million naira to get the job as Director General of the Presidential Foreign Intervention or Investment Protection Promotion Council, remaining an outstanding 200 million to pay, even though he has been denied by the presidency and all of those. The middleman he gave the 400 million to pass on to Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila died under mysterious circumstance in a hotel in Utako. We later on got to know, even yesterday, by this same man, that the hotel was hurriedly pulled down.
Wow.
And all of those.
I have been in prison.
And the parents have been arrested. Anyway, so how did you receive all of this? And what's your feedback?
Nothing was a surprise to me. The reason that was that when I was actively publishing on Sahara Reporters as an investigative reporter, I came upon the first story of Femi Gbajabiamila having stolen his client's money, $25,000.
The same Femi Gbajabiamila?
Yes.
This same
Femi Gbajabiamila.
Are you sure it's the same person?
Yes. So in Atlanta,
he stole 25,000
from one of his clients. And that was what led him to run away from the US. Came back to Nigeria and joined.
What year was this?
This must have been in the 2000s. I can't remember the exact year. So when I did the story, I never knew who he was. And then someone called me, Abike Dabiri.
The same honorable?
Yes. He said, Showore, because I knew him when we were in the student union. He used to work at NTA.
You knew her?
Abike? Yes. Okay. So I knew her. And I said, I haven't heard from you in a while. And he said, what did my brother do to you? I said, who's your brother? I said, Waja now. He said there's a story that you wrote about him on Sahara Reporters. Is there any way we can do to help him? Oh, wow. I said, so you know a thief? She laughed. And that was the last I heard of the story. So I wasn't surprised. In fact, if you read the excerpts of the investigation that was done, Baja actually, in an attempt to cover up, got money from Lagos and tried to pay back the money so as to cover up the crime. In Atlanta, Georgia. So
it was disbarred by the Georgia state
as a result of that.
Wow.
Yes, this is public record.
Wow.
You can look for it and read it. So not surprised. And this is how Nigeria got to where it is, by recruiting criminals to lead the country in various sectors.
Sorry to interrupt you. You mean this story is public?
It is public, yeah.
So how did Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila become elected as House of Reps member, became not just House of Reps member, majority leader, and then he became speaker?
Ask yourself, how did Tinubu become president? How did he become senator, governor, and president? Without a real age, a real certificate that we know of, and with the baggage of drug trafficking. How did Dapo Abiodun become governor with the baggage of a drug conviction in the US as
You
well.
mean the governor of Ogun State
Ogun State
has a drug conviction
of
in the
course,
United
in the
States?
US. So a lot of these guys who are now within our political leadership system are ex-convicts, former criminals, con men, 419ers, drug dealers, money launderers. That's where Nigeria is today. If you look at a majority of their backgrounds, you dig and find out that they've been involved in one criminal activity or the other. That's why they get upset when people like us call them criminal, because they know that we have the force of facts and evidence behind it, including a moral declaration that they cannot get over. So, are you then surprised that Baja took 400 million naira from somebody and he still left?
It's an allegation, not
It
proven
is,
yet.
well, my lawyer, Femi Falana, is the one helping the prince to prove his case. In the back end, we have already seen all the evidence.
Oh, really?
Yes, of how the transaction, you have mentioned some of it, how the person who transferred the money was killed, and the house where the transaction, the hotel where it took place, has been pulled down because there are other criminal networks involved that are interested in covering this up. Don't forget that there are several other persons who have made allegations against Baja about how he extorts money from them. I know of a case that I can tell you here, that when the guy was appointed to head NEFUND, he said the pressure was so much. He wanted
NEFUND, the
student loan
loans organization.
Yes. He said, Baja was very clear. There's been another story of a guy, Obaze, who was investigating Buhari's former private secretary, that one that used to sell recharge card, who became a billionaire, Tunde Sabiu. They call him Tunde Idiagbon. Was born around the time Idiagbon was deputy to Buhari. And Obaze was investigating him. He had already agreed to part with some money, properties, and at the point, they said, but I sent a message to him. A message to him that he should not talk to Obaze anymore. He should talk to him directly, and they can settle this. That was how Tunde Idiagbon never appeared in the radar of the corrupt
Any
guy.
of the investigative
Even that
agencies.
happened. Baja was the one who killed that investigation, took his own share of the money.
This is just allegation, sure.
When you're talking to Shore, you can remove allegation from, because I exist. You can come and sue me if you think I lied against you. That's why you see, I get upset, absolutely upset when I see the justice system, the security system weaponized against all these small boys who send people to its prison when the real criminals, are there. There's a boy we just went and freed yesterday. He said he cloned the voice of the president. He's been in jail for 2 months. We got him freed yesterday. There's a guy they call DJ Chicken in Lagos. So he said he wants to kill Sheyi Tinubu. How is that? You see, even if somebody threatens to kill somebody, and the police gets there and discover he doesn't have the capacity, you don't even arrest the person. But these guys are just social media content creators. And trust me, if these content creators don't exist, we will have no economy that keeps them busy. Imagine if all these guys are also engaging in terrorism, because there's now an entire economics model that is helping Nigeria that Nigeria hasn't really paid attention to.
But they shouldn't break the law anyway, even
There's no law broken.
But sure, let's focus on this. And
The real lawbreakers are the ones we are mentioning now.
I want you to.
The ones who go and pull down hotels where very egregious criminal transactions took place, and they got away with it.
I want you to comment on the fact that the president said eventually, belatedly, but eventually did mandate the ICPC to investigate this matter and report back in 30 days.
So he's still in office. He's been saddled with 2 committees in recent time. One of it was a 10 billion naira Ebola fund. But Amila is not a doctor. And there's another one. And the president is deceiving people by saying them. Let me give you an analogy. My grandmom used to fish, and she put plenty of fish to dry, and she had a cat that she trusted, only for my grandmom to meet the cat one day, and the rats in the house were helping the cat to remove fire from underneath the fish. That's where the Tinubu regime has gotten to. Cats and fish
And
have
rats.
formed a political
Cats
party.
and rats
They
are
have formed to be
an
taking
alliance.
fish, an alliance. And any country in which the cats and rats are part of a coalition, that country is finished.
Okay, we don't have time, sure. I think we could have dwelt more on it, but let's round up with this. The political parties, you political actors, you've been accused of working at cross purposes, not coming together. Do you actually think you can defeat President Tinubu working in silos?
Well, absolutely. And I'll tell you this, and I've stated it many times, that the reason I don't waste my time with the so-called opposition parties is that they are not opposed to anything.
Why would you say so? Peter Obi is opposed to.
What's he
Peter Obi
opposed to?
talks every day, condemns every day most of the policies and activities of
there are
the
more
administration.
people,
Atiku likewise.
there are many people on social media that you don't know who condemn the president and the president's regime more than, and you don't call them political
So you
parties.
don't believe in
it doesn't have to
together.
do with condemn. It has to be that they are really serious in organizing.
So they're serious.
They are serious in changing the system. Not people who are using back channels to discuss with the system who want to preserve the old order. The difference between me and them is that they want to preserve the old order. I want to dismantle it.
No, Peter Obi, for instance, I don't think wants to preserve the old order because he says clearly, I mean, he will pull down this structure of criminality, this system of criminality and all of those.
That's what the lie he told you in 2023. But where did he end up in 2024? With the same structure of criminality, formed a coalition with them when he couldn't get what he wanted. He ran to another structure of criminality. They are all there now.
Okay, let me put
struggling with the new structure of criminality he ran into.
Let me put you on this. And
yes, go ahead,
comrade. Someone your peer, your age, category, Prince Adebayo Adewale. Why can't you partner with somebody like that?
Who told you we don't partner?
No, form an alliance. That's what I mean.
Yes,
I think both of you are even from the same state.
We are from Ondo State.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you publicly that I'm very close to him. Yes, sir. But we understand each other to the point that we have different political trajectories that we can all travel and arrive at the same destination. That's an understanding we have. I'm close to him, and I can say it publicly that he's a brilliant guy. Better than, in terms of intelligence, though, better than all these people you are parading. And I'm surprised, but not surprised, because Nigeria is, you have heard about the Olodo uprising. It's almost anti-intellectual. That people see, if the conversation is about an Adebayo or myself versus, I'm more comfortable. But the people, you really hear about him because Nigerians don't like people who are intelligent. They can't, it seems like they can't even stand his intelligence. But I am more on the extreme left side of politics. He is more of a moderate person, But do we agree on a lot of things? Absolutely, yes. To the point that I tell him that when I become president, we will run a collegiate presidency. When I'm asleep, he'll be running the country. When I'm awake,
who will be the president? You or him?
That's why we say collegiate. Okay. Two of us, Okay. But I will be the president, commander-in-chief. He can help me run policy. Like I said, brilliant guy.
But I still think you guys should.
Brilliant guy. But you are not ready
he's
to
not averse to working together with Atiku, Peter Obi, Donald Duke, and all this.
That is where he and I differ.
Yeah.
You see, he believes that. He never told me that some of them are a little bit redeemable. He's tolerant of them. I am completely against their brand of politics. And the fact that their past speaks to the future that they're going to bring.
But in the part of the country where you and I come from, our elders, our ancestors are saying that if you say you want to, those days they use firewood to cook. So they say, you remove this wood, the firewood, and say, oh, it has cockroaches. You remove this one, you say that it has ants. There will be no more firewood left to cook.
That is when they were cooking with firewood. We cook with gas now. There's no point going back.
There's no point going back.
The only respect a Yoruba person. I'm telling you, Michael, you see how
you all these guys.
Those who are saying that you need all kinds of people to form a coalition to take power.
Thank you guys.
Peter Obi that you mentioned, he has done it in 2023. Ask yourself, all the people he brought to the National Assembly, Where are they? Where's all the firewood with which they were doing fire in 2023?
Anyway, we need to round up.
They are the ones who quench the fire now.
How do you guys hope to defeat President Tinubu in 2027?
You ask me, how do the people?
Yeah.
And it's very simple, mathematics or arithmetic. In every election cycle that we had in this country, only about 25% of registered voters vote in elections. We have said that there's a coalition in there that is unexplored, who are disenfranchised, who have been abused, that we can bring into play. And there are about 50 million voters. And I'm not joking. If we can wake them up, you will never talk about coalition again.
Can this INEC deliver? Do you trust INEC?
No, of course, but something can be brought to bear on INEC, the mass. If people vote and they have counted their votes and INEC is dilly-dallying, we can deliver the election results our own, with or without INEC. That's what we did in 1993. What sabotaged 1993?
How many votes did you get in 2020?
People that Abiola was working with. The same kind of coalition that we're talking about now. Because I remember going to Abiola's house.
No, you cannot.
That picture and video you saw when I was young. And he was there with Nzeribe, and Nzeribe was the person who sabotaged. And he spent more time, cozying up to the people who were sabotaging him than embracing the new revolutionary politicians in town. Well, not politicians, political activism in town. By the time he realized,
but when you went to Abia
and came back from, exile, it was too late. We told him, don't travel, stay with us.
I'm happy.
I wish that all my videos of interaction with him was available. You see, there was a time he stood in his balcony. I stood on a bus, student union bus, and I was telling him, appoint us as your shadow minister. Let's see what we do. The next thing, Abiola ran away. By the time they brought him back, is this same Tinubu people shepherd him into one Ekwetedo. We didn't even know when Abiola was arrested. Imagine that the day he was arrested, there were people like me outside that place. There's no way they could have taken him away. We would have reached everything. Look at his burial. I was the one who coordinated his burial. Tambo Mbeki was at the airport. We didn't let him attend. Abacha sent the delegation. They couldn't enter his house. The evidence is there. So there's no way during our time that if they hadn't done what they did, that they would have been able to take Abiola. So
2027, away. You can secure?
Absolutely. If the Nigerian people are ready, we'll secure our mandate even before 2027. We'll just be waiting for an announcement.
Fantastic. Nice place to anchor, Shore.
Thank you so much.
Let's do this again soon as we run down towards the elections. Let's do this again. Thank you for coming, Shore.
Thank you for
really appreciate it.
Yes.
I beg you. I beg. We know who you people are. Thank you for showing us who you are. We can't be fooled again. Fool me once. You not fit fool me a second time. We see it playing out. We all know the truth. Now, anybody when say you don't know the truth, you not see what they happen. I don't know what to tell you. It's very convenient. You are a bigot, shadow bigot. I beg you. She said we know they know. Even the universe know. That's why you don't have the organic following. They can tell. As he asked him the question, all of a sudden he's uncomfortable. I beg. Well, let's move to what's it be the name of that man? Interview when I want to play. Paul Lala. What's it be the name again, Kene? Paul something. I played the interview. Go. Paul Lala J.
The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, has defended President Bola Tinubu's borrowing record, insisting that, contrary to widespread public perception, the administration has not borrowed anywhere near the 75 trillion naira to 80 trillion naira attributed to it. Instead, he explained that the sharp increase in Nigeria's public debt was largely the result of the naira's exchange rate adjustment, the securitization of inherited ways and means advances, and refinancing of maturing obligations rather than fresh borrowing. He also disclosed that Nigeria's external reserves had risen above $51 billion, the highest level in 17 years, providing more than 10 months of import cover, while net reserves stood at approximately $40 billion. Joining us on the show to discuss the finance minister's pronouncement that the Tinubu administration has not borrowed 80 trillion naira and blaming the huge debt overlay on foreign exchange and legacy liabilities is Dr. Paul Alaje, Chief Economist at SPM Professionals. Good morning, Dr. Alaje. Thanks for joining us today on the morning show.
Good morning, and thank you so very much for having me.
Well, Dr. Paul Alaje is the Minister of Finance.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, morning. Is he saying the truth, blaming foreign exchange and legacy liabilities and saying that Nigeria has not in fact borrowed up to 80 trillion naira as claimed? Okay, whatever they have borrowed, what have they done with it? Where is the impact? That is a concern of a section of the commentariat on this particular subject. Your take.
Yeah, thank you so very much once again. Well, it depends on perspective. If you are looking at going to the market fresh to ask for new money, federal government borrowed but may not be up to 80 trillion naira. Here is the real fact. We borrow money over the years, and when we borrow in hard currency, exchange rate becomes a major factor. Suppose our exchange rate today is 500 naira to the dollar. What that means is that all the money we borrow from outside Nigeria is going to be halved. We are going to have 1/2 of the exact money we are owing today. That's the truth. But because what we borrow as of this moment today, we are using the current exchange rate. What that means is that the total money we hold, exchange rate as a major factor. The question therefore will be, do we say that Nigeria is not owing money? The answer will be no. Or is it about an administration that borrowed or the one that did not borrow? Recall that in 2022, I had granted an interview with your business editor, Mr. Bosin Omoye, and I said that within a month, Nigeria added 1 trillion naira. 1 trillion naira by not borrowing new money, but by devaluing the currency. So here is it. There are effects of devaluation. And in fact, in economics, we call it money illusion. You hear that our revenue has increased. But what you are not looking at is that the more the revenue increase, our debt is also swelling, quote and unquote, like Ijebugari. Now the effect of debt is happening to all of us. And that is not the real conversation for me, doctor. The real conversation for me is using debt to refinance, which was mentioned in that statement. What does that mean? There are two types of money. There is cold money, there is hot money. Hot money, like hot tea that is 100 degrees, and you pour it directly in your mouth, it burns. So now that the hot money may burn our fingers. Why? Because of interest rates. Why? Because when the money comes, on what are we investing? So you see that just yesterday, the central bank, of course, took a very important decision by holding rate at 26.5%. That gives those that want to foreign portfolio investors can come to Nigeria and make some investment. But are they investing in real sector? Are they investing in portfolio? Are they buying our stock, our shares, our treasury bill, our bonds? Because the rates are high. They put their money into that. We need the money because all we have been doing over time is short-term solution. They are called quick fixes. We fix the problem today. We raise new money in the market. We find another quick fixes. But the long-term real solution will be because at the end of the day, Naira has been always susceptible to devaluation. And I say this in the last 40 years of study. Naira has been susceptible to devaluation. What will exchange rate be in the next 30 years? Do we expect Naira to improve in value or the value of Naira to emaciate? Well, the answer is obvious. So what will happen to debt by that time? Will our debt still be increasing or decreasing? So definitely government has had new borrowings. But is it up to what government has borrowed? The answer is no. But this is why economics is very important. Unlike accountants will look at the book value. Economics will look at implicit and explicit value. We look at two values, unlike accountants. So accountant will tell you, this is what we did. Economists will tell you, even what you are not doing is a cost. So did Nigeria borrow up to that amount? Yes, because we are also adjusting our exchange rate. So if you ask me, did we borrow up to that? Yes. But if you are speaking nominally, if you are speaking accounting, I will tell you, no, we did not borrow up to the money. But at the end of the day, it's not about Nigeria accounting. It's about Nigeria economists. And you need economists to look into that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dr. Alaje, for your submission on that one. Now, the last question Dr. Abati asked was around where this, where the borrowing goes to, where the funds go to. Yes, you talked about using debt to refinance, to refinance our debts, or borrowing to refinance our debts and the dangers therein. How about other areas in terms of development? Because the justification for continuous borrowing, as it were, is that, they need it for infrastructure projects to develop. It's as long as what you're borrowing for is positive or would benefit and contribute to the GDP, then you can justify that. Has this administration shown accountability in that regard? Are you confident that this is at least what is not going to refinancing our debt? Are you confident that this is what's happening, or we need more transparency in that area?
Yeah, No, I agree that there are some monies that have gone into infrastructure. I agree that not all the money borrowed this moment today goes into refinancing. I agree. To a large extent, some of the monies borrowed are going into infrastructure. I also agree that some of the borrowings were legacy debt. They were borrowings like the old ways and means and all of those things. But government is a continuum. What we need to put all on deck for is, how do we find solutions to excessive debt that we met? Recall that it has been said before that debt is not a problem, but I dare tell you that debt is a major concern, especially for a nation that pays high interest rates on debt. It's like businesses too. It's a huge concern. Where has the money gone to? We have had some on some projects. We have also had some on recurrent expenditure. We have had some on refinancing. And why do we do refinancing? I'll tell you. Because government projected that we will have some revenue. But revenue, the time we pass the budget, and the time revenue comes, there is lag. It's not happening at the same time. So oftentimes, government goes to the market to raise treasury bills, instruments, and bonds. And when that happens, hoping that by the time revenue comes, based on the way we have planned it in the budget, we are going to now use the revenue to defray money that is borrowed. But the question is, your agency, your media agency, is very notable in the nation. And I know you follow the story over the years. Let's look at the last 10 years or 15 years. Can we say that we have ever met our revenue targets? The answer is no. Our revenue target in the budget. But often than not, I can tell you, out of 10 years, more than 6 years, we've always gone back to have, supplementary budgets. What it means is that the budget that was passed in December or January, and sometimes in March, is not the actual budget. You need to add the supplementary budget to it. So when you add the budget and we are not meeting revenue, you know that is a recipe for disaster. Why? Because we are not meeting the revenue target. We are bringing more budget in terms of supplementary budget. And where is the money coming from? The window we have is to borrow. So when we borrow such money at certain interest rates, how are we going to finance it in the long run?
Okay, Dr. Alaje, I would like to call for a tape by Senator Mungunu. Let's watch that tape, then it will address some of the questions I'm going to ask.
If we have exceeded the target of our revenue collection, it is inherently contradictory for government to woefully fail to implement the budget. Where are this revenue going to? If the budget, for example, 2025 budget, has not been implemented, and we have to roll over 70% of 2025 to 2026, and that with the promise that 30% will be implemented before March. Up to March, even 30% was not implemented. National Assembly has to extend the lifespan of the budget up to September to allow government to implement just 30% component of 2025 budget. The issue of 2026 have not arisen completely has not arisen. Has not even started up initio. It has not even arisen. So don't you think is it not contradictory? Or why are these revenues going to the extent that the budget is not being implemented? It is through the implementation of the budget that dividends of democracy is being brought to the doorsteps of the people. If the budget is not being implemented, why is the function of government? For example, security of lives and property of the people is the primacy of governance. All the security agencies that we have been interacting with them, they are reporting to us that they have received zero allocation in terms of their capital. Where are these monies going to? This is my question. Why is budget not implemented?
I'm sure, Mr. Alaji, you heard that tape, and that's what I've been calling for. So for all of those that have been in defense of Mr. Oyedele, my very good friend and brother, which we've known way before, he became a minister. The question is, where is that funding going to? And even the monies that have been collected, where is the funding going to? Second question I want to ask you is what we are doing with the Forex. Like I was saying this morning, we have deliberately kept interest rates high so that we can have foreign portfolio investments to be able to use that money to balance out our dollar to naira rates, which is not a real way to run an economy. What should really run an economy should be the production from the foreign direct investment, not foreign portfolio investments. And that's why interest rates is 26.5, inflation rate is 15%. So two things that look good on paper now, and despite the fact that we've really kept our rates that high, the naira is still not its true value. It's still overvalued. The true value should be around 1,100 and something, as said by the World Bank. So like Senator Mungunu is asking, where is the money? You see, 2025, they are saying they can only fund with 30%. These are projects that can change the life of people. They've never started talking about 2026 at all. Please comment on all of this, sir.
Yeah, thank you so very much. It's very difficult to tell where all the money has gone to, but I can tell you that we have certain obligations that we must meet. One of them is recurrent expenditure. We cannot but satisfy recurrent expenditure. Number two is debt servicing, which was the first question Doctor and I think AY had asked earlier regarding the debt management and debt administration in Nigeria. So I believe that those ones are where the money is going to. The question now, therefore, will be that if we had met our revenue target, because Senator Mungunu said we had met our revenue target, I think he was quoting what the administration had mentioned. And I've said to you on this particular show that I doubt we have met our revenue target. Now, that does not mean that agencies of government have not done their best to meet the target given to them. I know they have. But when you look at the entire budget, it goes beyond what some agencies of government were given. So our revenue target to a large extent have not been met. If it has been met, we will not be discussing 70% of capital. Recall that capital is the most sensitive part of the budget. But because we are doing 70% of capital expenditure, most of the agencies that we interviewed are spent even the capital 100%. Because they've already done bidding, they've done procurement, the people that bidded, the contractors are supplied, and they are fine only for them to know that it's 30% they will get. Even some of them have not gotten 10 out of the 30 they were supposed to be given. So I think that to a large extent, Mr. Oyedele is relatively new in the Ministry of Finance, and I believe that he must have been having some conversation with the Chief Executive. But transparency is important. Some of this will need to be escalated, and we get to a point where people have proper understanding. If senators at that sensitive committee are asking questions about where the revenue is going to, it's important to provide some answers to the understanding of Nigerians so that people will not be thinking otherwise. And looking at the other points that you raised regarding interest rate is kept high, and we are doing that. The truth is that if we reduce our interest rate, it's going to have impact on our reserve. If it has impact on our reserve, it's going to have impact on exchange rate. If it has impact on exchange rate, it's going to have impact on prices. If it has impact on prices, it's going to have impact on inflation. If it has impact on inflation, poverty will surge above 150 million people. So what should central bank do? And that is why we say you need 2 hands to clap. So you can see the trajectory, you can see the possibility along the monetary authority. And monetary authority feels our mandate, our interest is to ensure we have price stability and exchange rate stability.
Dr. Alaje, by keeping interest rate at 26.5, we are starving the real sector that's supposed to bring about the productivity. Because the real sector...
I agree with you.
Yes, because the real sector, you and I, are not going to bank and taking loans at over 30%. And that's why we are not having the foreign direct investment to power the economy. That's how an economy goes, not from foreign portfolio investment.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with you. That is why the reform should not be in some sector of the economy. It should be on the overall economy. In fact, the reform we have practiced can be traced to to the impact directly on human beings. So I agree with you. I'm not disputing what you said. It's correct.
Okay.
But I am saying that monetary authority seems to work to maintain and to protect price stability and exchange stability. We also have fiscal authority and trade authority who must not ensure that we complement. When we say we complement, it will not necessarily be to do the same thing monetary authorities are doing, but we ensure that we provide security. That's number one. We provide infrastructure, number two, and we also ensure that means of transportation, most importantly, rail, is made available to the population. This will lead to acceleration of businesses and trade and exchange, and that is where we can grow. That is when we can measure. You see, the real thing that is missing in all of this, Dr. Abati, one thing is missing. In spite of the reforms, in spite of all the money, in spite of the exchange rate reserve, productivity. If you do all of this and there is no productivity, a nation that is productive will even bounce back better than Nigeria.
Dr. Alaje, at the end of the 306th meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee yesterday, CBN Governor Olayemi Kaduso said that the cautious policy stance taken by the CBN with the concurrence of the 11 members who were present at that MPC meeting is the most appropriate position for the CBN to have taken. And you seem to be saying it wasn't right for the Monetary Policy Committee to have retained all the rates from the 305th meeting in May. Is that what you are saying? You disagree with the MPC?
No, I did not disagree with the MPC. As a matter of fact, I've even issued a publication earlier that MPC should hold rate. Because if they don't hold rate, the impact is what I trace. If they have reduced rate or they have increased rate, both have implication. One, we are faced with unpredictable negative externality because of because of geopolitics and tension that is happening in the Middle East. That's on one hand. So what central bank would have done, what central bank should do is what he did yesterday, to hold rate because of predictability of what may happen to pricing. I am not disagreeing with what the Monetary Policy Committee did yesterday. I do not disagree with them. If they are, for instance, let's say they increase rate, what would that mean? It will stifle private sector further because private sector is already stifled. And that's what Mr. Rufai was emphasizing. What if they have reduced rates? If they reduce rate, then foreign portfolio investors may go. If they go, our foreign reserve will reduce, our exchange rate will be affected, inflation will increase, poverty will increase. So when you look at it on both sides, it's better for us to sit on defense. It's better for us to retain rate. But if you are looking at it in isolation, it looks like it's a wrong policy. It's a wrong decision. No. I'm saying let's look at it holistically. Who are the people that are responsible to ensure that real investment is attracted to the economy? It's not just monetary authority, it's also fiscal authority. And that's where you find trade authority and fiscal authority. What should we therefore do? We need to combat insecurity. We need to prioritize correctly, which our priority should go on transport and energy, really very importantly.
And also place emphasis on productivity, I recall you saying. Thank you very much, Dr. Paul Alaje.
That was a great interview. Thank you so much for sharing that Kenny. I am very happy that I played this interview, you know. So let's wrap it up here. Exactly. Always speaking from two sides. I thought nobody could. Thank you. Exactly. I don't know. It's very difficult to. I'm sorry to anyone who may feel offended. Nigerian politics has left historical marks on everybody. The things that we're not going to forget in a hurry. You know, exactly. He has stylishly said uttering but staying on fence, not to. Exactly. This is the problem. How, in this very crucial time in our society, you are still sitting on the fence. This is what Dr. Kachi was saying. Bold. You got to have the courage. Nobody's going to give you freedom. I don't understand though. It's so shameful. Anyway, my people, let's hang it here. If I have time, I'll come out later, and I have some videos that I also want us to check out on Twitter as well. So we'll keep it plugged in here. And I will see you on my next one. Thank you so much, Sid, Michael, Kene. Kene, thank you for showing up. We see you had time for your busy schedule, taking care of your billionaire. Okay. Michael. Toju, I think that's his name. I'm not sure now. Tracy, my girl, of course. Sid, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. I'll see you guys on my next one. Bye. I beg if I don't mention anyone, I know vessel. I beg. Thank you. Bye.